things are taking a stranger turn. Back in late October, 3 of the Atlas objects vanished behind the sun right when they were supposed to be at peak visibility. Meanwhile, as NASA stayed silent amid that oddly timed government shutdown, another operation was underway. Experts in remote viewing, trained operatives who use intuitive perception for intel collection, got assignments from mysterious agency sources to mentally investigate the anomaly. Their visions didn't reveal a comet at all. Instead, it appeared as a massive mothership, stretching kilometers across, brimming with millions of inactive entities where organic and synthetic components blended in forms that defy our definitions of biology or machinery. Then, a whistleblower from CERN stepped up, alleging that researchers at the collider had punched open a gateway, setting up direct contact with whatever's inside 3I Atlas, and everyone present picked up the same telepathic transmission simultaneously. In this episode, we're plunging into these theories, and fair warning, they ramp up in unease with each reveal. We'll kick off by exploring what the remote viewers uncovered about 3I Atlas's interior, then wrap up with why December 2025 keeps surfacing in predictions as the point where realities diverge and our species' destiny branches into wildly contrasting outcomes. This is the deep dive installment that pieces together insights from the intuitives, insiders, and seers, all pointing to the same enigma from varied perspectives. Dive in. Chapter 1. Probing the mothership via remote viewing. Imagine directing the human psyche to scan an entity billions of kilometers distant, one zipping along at unbelievable velocities, possibly nothing like our assumptions. What if you ditched scopes, sensors, and equations, turning pure awareness into your tool? The outcomes, surprisingly, prove both chilling and strikingly uniform among unrelated participants with zero prior coordination. For newcomers, remote viewing is a rigorous system for extracting data on remote or hidden subjects through extrasensory means. It originated with CIA and Stanford Research Institute efforts amid Cold War tensions. The process demands tight protocols. Viewers operate in total ignorance of the subject. No hints, no visuals, just phased sessions that build from raw vibes to intricate specifics. Though skeptics in academia label it junk science, its track record in defense ops showed enough reliability to sustain funding for more than 20 years. When deployed to pinpoint enemy subs, sketch overseas bases, or forecast international shifts, it delivered hits frequently enough to hold the military's interest. Come August 2025, the team at Adventures in Remote Viewing aimed this debated technique at 3I Atlas. They coded it as Target 77,483-050 and gathered 6 seasoned practitioners, each boasting extensive practice and verified hits from past missions. These individuals received just the code, no images, no briefs, no clues about the focus. Complete info blackout. Their prompt was straightforward. Describe the essence of the entity called 3I Atlas and its trajectory across our solar neighborhood. The feedback was jaw-dropping, not for offering ironclad evidence, since remote viewing falls short of lab rigor, but for the striking overlaps. Working solo, all 6 delivered accounts that synced on key structural aspects. Each noted a mix of living and engineered traits. Without exception, they evoked terms like body, frame, casing, alloyed, ceramic smooth, cutting edge, yet also viscous, jellyish, vital flows, a seamless merge of tech and organism outside our usual boxes. Various reports hinted at a volumetric form that hollowed out, featuring observation ports, enclosed observation areas, advanced lab setups with regulated atmospheres. Sensations included energy bursts, crackles, hums, throbbing vibes, luminous parts, shimmering exteriors, emanating fields, hues that morphed, borders that looked corroded or stained, as though weathered by eons in the interstellar emptiness. A few pointed to the thing emitting a forward mist, displacing matter in both directions, which oddly echoes theories on how a star-traversing vessel might scatter hazards ahead. One participant, John Dixon, sketched a constructed, clearly non-organic, structure adorned in vivid green and stark white glows seeping from joints in a honeycomb layout. He explained the pale radiance shifting to emerald under air exposure or via some thermal reaction across alloy strata. PDR observers noted what seemed like assorted metals arranged in distinct strata, perhaps evaporating or turning directly into gas, accounting for the odd signals picked up by observatories. Pure nickel without any iron. Chemical compositions impossible in the natural world. Another participant, Patricia, from the viewing circle, sensed packed interiors, advanced tech surpassing anything humans can build today, and a presence that felt alien, equipped with complex ways to communicate and a superior, almost scornful view of human smarts. Several independent viewers mentioned this mutual awareness, as if the entity or thing inside was watching them right back, fully conscious of the remote probing and mostly apathetic, not aggressive, merely aloof, like how we'd eye a bug trying to puzzle out a rocket ship. Then there's the input from Bertie Josky, operating in a separate initiative with the target code 495268877. Music. Her work centered on what she termed echo traces, subtle echoing pulses hinting at a remnant scout from an ancient, vanished society on Mars. She and her colleagues caught faint projections of shimmering crystal formations on the thing's exterior. These aren't aggressive incursions, but rather returns to origin points. The phrase they repeatedly invoked was homing signal, suggesting 3I Atlas is emitting calls to stir up inactive systems on Mars and potentially on Europa, the icy satellite of Jupiter, where hidden watery depths could conceal all sorts of mysteries. This sits awkwardly alongside established notions in panspermia, the concept that life propagates across the universe through organic or engineered dispersal. If Mars hosted a sophisticated culture long ago, a debated idea backed by certain isotope findings we'll explore shortly, and if they launched explorers prior to their downfall from some disaster, an artifact circling back after eons could be trying to link up with what's left. Not a takeover, but a return. Not outsiders, but far-flung kin scouting the old stomping grounds. Yet the most disturbing account arises from Sebastian Martin, an expert in intuitive intel gathering, who says he was approached by unnamed government outfits. Asked to psychically examine 3I Atlas, he envisioned a colossal command vessel, spanning kilometers, brimming with what he called countless inactive passengers. Alien in form, serpentine, draconian, words heavy with connotations from fringe theories, but applied here just to convey the unfamiliar. Entities in a kind of stasis or minimal vitality mode, biding their time. Martin goes further, alleging a source inside CERN, the European Lab for Nuclear Studies, where the massive particle smasher rams bits at almost light velocity, disclosed that researchers there triggered a gateway. Literal, tangible, not poetic or hypothetical. Via the collider to open or summon an interdimensional passage for bidirectional exchange with the force piloting or inhabiting 3I Atlas. According to the tale, spectral projections materialized in the complex, elongated, lizard-like or draconian figures, conveying thoughts directly to each mind present. All individuals absorb the identical transmission at once. We arrive peacefully. Our purpose is to collect this world's star seeds. In esoteric lingo, star seeds denote spirits or awarenesses born from cosmic origins, now embodied on Earth to aid in human growth or enlightenment. Take it at face value, as allegory, or brush it off. The uniformity among those who heard it stands out. And the chronology, assuming it's legit, syncs with 3I Atlas's swing past the sun in late October, its nearest pass and peak power phase, when sustaining such a link might demand minimal effort. The CERN twist sparks fierce debate, since high-energy blasts in those tests do recreate conditions unseen in our spacetime since right after the universe's birth. Such impacts test the weave of existence in profound, partially mysterious manners. Ideas around birthing tiny singularities, tapping parallel realms, or breaching the quantum underlayer into unknown territories aren't complete outliers. They represent bold offshoots from mainstream science, pondered by certain experts. Translating any of that to forging channels for chats with cosmic wanderers demands some serious stretches that few physicists would endorse. Still, few would have foreseen that isolated psychics would separately depict the identical blend of organic and engineered traits without any background intel. The Future Forecasting Group, yet another team of intuitives, ran viewings on 3I that revealed what they termed strange links to doomsday scenarios. They described witnessing the entity unlow as swarms of compact drones unleash upon hitting its closest solar approach. These devices ignite worldwide plasma upheavals and EMP-style blackouts while piercing Earth's atmosphere or magnetic field. Such prophecies pinpoint the key moment near December 2025, precisely as three-eyed Atlas slips out from the sun's glare and becomes clearest to observers on our planet. The seers outline a branching path in history, a pivotal split where humankind either merges with helpful alien tech for a massive advancement or slides into a dark forest clash, drawing from that sci-fi idea where societies conceal themselves since any encounter spells destruction. This is where things turn deeply thought-provoking. By conventional physics, remote viewing shouldn't function at all. Data can't outpace light speed. Awareness can't scrutinize remote sites absent some material link. Sensing demands inputs from light particles or similar carriers. Still, in structured sessions, those with the skill have pinpointed submerged subs, sketched unseen structures, and outlined upcoming incidents with hit rates far surpassing mere luck. The how remains a mystery, yet the sheer volume of recorded cases means brushing it off demands overlooking a dataset that's, though not rigorous by strict scientific measures, persuasively robust in stats. So, how should we interpret the remote viewing insights on Three-Eyed Atlas? A few options emerge. First, it could all be fabrication, fancy weaving gaps with imagination, latching onto sci-fi cliches of vast motherships and lost Martian societies. The participants might be channeling widespread cultural tales from the shared psyche and overlaying them on a vague focus. That accounts for the overlap via common lore, not true shared sight. Second, they could be connecting to genuine elements, but filtering them via human biases and assumptions. Detecting vibes, forms, purposes, yet framing them in recognizable symbols. A reptilian vibe might signal a unique wavelength or shape. An air of aloof intellect could stem from robotic routines or AI ignoring organic minds as noteworthy. The idea of a guiding signal might hold true at core, even if details falter. An old scout vessel heading back, though not from Mars or any society we'd know. Third, these viewers might be peering into perspective paths or likelihood webs, entangled quantum states of possible futures, and relaying the strongest or most vibrant projection. Here, they're not eyeing Three-Eyed Atlas in its present state, but in potential evolutions, behaviors, or developments. The doomsday visions, drone launches, atmospheric tempests stand as options that could or couldn't play out, hinging on decisions and randomness still ahead. Or fourth, they're spot on. Three-Eyed Atlas matches their accounts precisely. A bioengineered vessel housing hibernating entities from some ancient culture, maybe Martian roots, or even primordial, wielding tools that span realms or eras, nearing Earth deliberately, not randomly. And its aim ties to outreach, retrieval, or sparking a shift beyond our grasp. That CERN gateway tale, bizarre though it seems, hints at efforts by insiders in governments or research circles to reach out or decode the entity prior to its full entry into our domain. Assessing remote viewing intel proves tricky since it falls beyond standard proof methods. No lab tests possible for a singular cosmic transit like this. No way to tweak factors or repeat outcomes. All we can do is match reports against reality. Yet even so, judgments stay personal. Should Three-Eyed Atlas dispatch many objects come December, does that validate the sightings or just mark routine breakup? If odd EM spikes, ion bursts, or signaling efforts arise, do our instruments catch them? And are we ready to face the implications? What hits me, reviewing this info as impartially as possible, is the precision involved. Vague assertions like alien vessel incoming prove impossible to disprove and pointless. But specifics on hexagonal joints glowing particular hues in set scenarios, stratified metal builds that sublimate, interior observation areas, and standoffish demeanors, these surpass wild speculation. They're checkable, theoretically, if we ever approach Three-Eyed Atlas near enough to probe them. And to see the remarkable agreement among independent viewers, operating without collaboration, under blinded protocols, and drawing from diverse training approaches, indicates they're tuning into a real phenomenon, though its precise nature invites debate. A recurring theme across various sessions involved notions of concealment. This entity, dubbed Three Atlas with its three-eyed motif, seems purposefully crafted to blend seamlessly, imitating a comet or asteroid to conceal itself right out in the open. This isn't mere suspicion, it's calculated tactics. For a highly evolved society venturing into possibly adversarial space, broadcasting your presence with beacons and signals would be foolish. Instead, you monitor, you study, you stay hidden until you've evaluated the risks. A scout masked as a comet could slip into a star system, glide by without interference, collect intel, and exit undetected, avoiding any potential alarms if defenses are in place. Current astronomical data doesn't disprove this idea. 3 Atlas sports a coma. It's ejecting particles. It displays typical cometary traits. Yet it has no tail, displays bizarre composition, holds its course amid material loss, and traces a route oddly synced with our world's paths. It resembles a comet closely enough for a quick look to dismiss concerns, but reveals oddities under scrutiny that spark curiosity. Just the sort of setup for effective disguise, convincing at first sight, but intriguing upon closer inspection. Moreover, numerous participants noted interference during their sessions. Some felt their perceptions jammed, as though the target sensed the scrutiny and actively resisted it. Others broke through but encountered safeguards or obstacles, like protective layers or diversions. John Dixon, one observer, pointed out that any inhabitants, assuming there are some, appeared anxious about the results, possibly tied to their objectives. Anxiety suggests foresight, sentience, high stakes. Non-intelligent objects don't strategize. Mindless things don't dread repercussions if they're oblivious to them. The truly astonishing part here isn't the reliability of remote viewing itself. It's the broader ramifications, assuming even a fraction rings true. This goes beyond a straightforward rock or vessel. It points to a range of scenarios where organic life intertwines with machinery, where ancient and cutting-edge coexist without conflict, where sentience defies our familiar forms, and where this visitor traversing our solar system could serve as a detector, a propagator, a signal, and a challenge, all simultaneously, serving layered roles over timelines that eclipse our entire past. Viewers repeatedly portrayed 3 Atlas as venerable, employing terms like remnant, heirloom, eroded, time-worn, yet also as refined, intricate, state-of-the-art, hinting at a society that reached tech pinnacle eons or epochs ago, then perhaps ascended, crumbled, or scattered, abandoning autonomous devices still pursuing directives from creators who may no longer endure. It's akin to discovering a dispatch in a vessel launched into the void long before our era, now arriving at our doorstep. Yet we're fixating on its material rather than deciphering the contents. The December 2025 date surfaces often in these visions as a pivotal moment. Whether this stems from true foresight of events, accidental cues from the query's phrasing, or simply because that's when 3 Atlas re-enters visibility and perihelion draws focus, is uncertain. Still, the alignment on this period, separate from orbital forecasts, merits attention. If any action unfolds, if 3 Atlas does more than transit, December marks the reveal. For now, we have accounts that echo speculative tales, delivered by individuals with proven histories in intuitive intel operations. We have portrayals that align too neatly with quirks picked up by scientific gear. And we have inquiries into awareness, into what extrasensory human insight can reach past tangible inputs, and into whether reality proves more intricate and linked than our reductionist views permit. Through the prism of distant sensing, 3 Atlas transcends mere matter. It acts as a reflector, mirroring our preconceptions, anxieties, aspirations, and maybe even our roots. Chapter 2. The Link to Mars. On October 3, 2025, as much of our planet rested or followed ordinary schedules, an astonishing occurrence unfolded roughly 18 million miles distant. 3 Atlas executed its nearest pass by Mars, brushing the crimson world at a proximity that's a mere murmur in astronomical scales, nearer than it would ever approach again. Approaching our planet more closely than any other verified interstellar traveler has come to any world in the solar system. This object's path prompts unsettling inquiries without easy resolutions. What draws it to Mars? Among all the celestial bodies that 3I Atlas might have intersected on its journey across our system, Why does it skim so near the single planet boasting the strongest signs of past livability? The place with fossilized river channels and ancient lake basins, where water-dependent minerals abound, and where mysterious methane bursts still emerge from hidden origins. Pure chance? Or could Mars be the very destination that brought 3I Atlas our way? Dr. John Brandenburg, a specialist in plasma physics who contributed to the Strategic Defense Initiative and has devoted years to examining Mars's rocky history, advances a notion that conventional experts in planetary studies dismiss, yet struggle to fully refute. He argues that the red planet's air wasn't merely whittled away gradually by solar winds across eons. Instead, he posits intentional annihilation via thermonuclear blasts, not from meteor strikes or comet collisions, but from deliberate blasts, weapons that imprint distinctive isotopic traces detectable even now in the Martian dirt and skies. Among the clues he highlights are unusually high amounts of specific isotopes, especially xenon-129, produced in nuclear fission processes. These proportions deviate sharply from patterns expected in natural decay or cosmic radiation exposure. They eerily resemble those found at Earth-based nuclear testing grounds. Furthermore, he's pinpointed two Martian zones, Cydonia Mensae and Galaxia's Chaos, where these isotopic spikes are especially pronounced, indicating epicenter sites for colossal detonations. The power involved would eclipse all human achievements, on the scale of millions of megatons, capable of flaying away the atmosphere, scouring life from the surface, and rendering a world desolate. Before brushing this off as outlandish conjecture, reflect on established knowledge. Indeed, Mars once possessed a protective magnetic shield that collapsed abruptly, in geological timescales, about 4 billion years back. Lacking that barrier, solar winds could gradually peel off the atmosphere. Yet the isotopic oddities Brandenburg has flagged don't fit a leisurely stripping process. They point to sudden disasters. Several scientists have observed that Mars's atmospheric argon proportions defy standard models of how planets form. An abrupt disruption occurred, far from a mere steady depletion. This leads to the profoundly disturbing possibility. If intelligent beings once thrived on Mars, and if their society was sophisticated enough to ignite or suffer nuclear Armageddon, what became of them? Did they flee? Did they plant the seeds of life on Earth prior to doom, positioning us as their heirs? Or perhaps they dispatched explorers, ships, arcs into the void, anticipating that one day their heritage might reclaim a healed planet? Cliff High, an analyst who mines data to forecast trends based on online linguistic trends, outlines precisely such a narrative. He theorizes that humankind descends from Martians, that we represent the exiles or survivors of a society that self-destructed or fell to assault, and that 3I Atlas arrives to commune with the flickering echoes of its own lineage. Here, the intruder isn't some exotic outsider. It's a prodigal return, a familial acknowledgement, an elder kin assessing the offspring of long-ago escapees. The flight path bolsters this idea in a spine-chilling fashion. 3I Atlas reaches its perihelion, nearest solar point, on October 29, 2025, at roughly 1.4 astronomical units, slipping just within Mars's orbital path. Viewed from Earth, this unfolds sunward, concealing the visitor amid solar glare during its height of vigor and emission. But Mars offers a contrasting vantage. From there, 3I Atlas would gleam conspicuously, trackable as a vivid streak arcing through the crimson heavens right at the climax of its venting and dynamism. Should one aim to beacon toward Mars, to ensure Mars spots the signal, this precise route would be ideal. Orbiting probes around the red planet, such as ESA's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Orbiter, alongside NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and the ground-based rovers, gained prime views of 3I Atlas at its tightest pass. The publicly shared photos depict a luminous, condensed form lacking the hazy coma typical of comets. Indeed, the Trace Orbiter generated a sequence illustrating the thing's motion relative to fixed stars, with experts observing that 3I Atlas displayed greater fluctuations in luminosity and form than those stellar points, hinting at genuine dynamism, intricate features, far more than a mere frozen boulder spinning through the black. NASA's Perseverance rover, equipped with optics for nocturnal celestial views, registered an anomaly in that time frame. A blur, a dash, a subtle glow into that amateur astronomers captured and later refined from the Martian evening. The photo has low clarity. The item looks stretched out, nearly tube-shaped. Although Avi Loeb and similar experts have noted that the stretching probably resulted from movement while the shutter was open, it's still striking that this appears in the Martian atmosphere right when 3 Atlas reached its nearest point. Whether this is the main body or a tiny scout that certain remote viewers foresaw it launching remains unclear. And we could be in the dark for ages since the info rollout has crawled along. The government closure, which we'll dive into further ahead, shut down NASA's outreach teams. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's top-tier camera, our sharpest eye circling the red planet, was meant to snag crisp shots of 3Y. Those shots either never happened, prompting doubts about the failed attempt, or they do exist but stay under wraps, sparking other suspicions. ESA dropped a fuzzy animation a few days post-pass. NASA put out zilch officially. The Chinese Tianwen orbiter and UAE's HOPE mission, both with prime views, have stayed mum. This joint silence from 4 separate space programs straight up fuels ideas of a hidden agenda about the true sightings, about if the Mars pass uncovered something too explosive for public eyes without sparking chaos or shaking global alliances. Yet it perfectly matches the sluggish ways of big scientific bureaucracies. Crunching data demands patience. Expert checks demand more. Nobody risks dropping early results that could flop and harm trust. The simplest take, institutional drag and prudence, usually holds up. Even so, the schedule feels off. The thing zips closest to Mars on October 3rd. The U.S. shutdown kicks in October 1st, sidelining 15,000 NASA staff. ESA's lone image surfaces only on October 7th. At that point, 3I Atlas is long gone. The chance for views slams shut, leaving us with mere fragments from what could have been humanity's best-ever photo op of an extrasolar visitor. Even sans plot, the bungling is jaw-dropping. But let's circle back to the Mars link from a fresh view. If 3 Atlas hails from a long-lost Martian society, what might it seek? What readings would it take? One option, biosignals, hints of ongoing life like methane bursts, heat shifts, odd magnetic fields hinting at buried bases or lively geology. Or maybe it's scanning for key sites, the spots of old cities or bases from eons back, now lost to sand or wear. The remote viewers take on 3 Atlas, sending wake-up pings to sleeping tech slots in nicely. Underground sites could be tucked away from rays and decay, primed for the proper call to boot up. Europa, that frozen Jovian moon, factors in too, as another spot in our system with hidden seas that could host biology. If Mars folk cracked star travel, they could have planted colonies across planets. 3IE Atlas's path swings by Jupiter come March 2026. Not as tight as the Mars brush, but near enough to watch. ESA's JUICE probe, bound for Jupiter, aims to eye 3I Atlas in November 2025. Should JUICE team up with NASA's Europa Clipper, also Jovian-bound, we could spot if 3 Atlas veers, drops payloads, or acts like it's not just cruising but probing set spots. Proof of past Mars livability piles up. Fresh looks at Earth-recovered Martian rocks spot organic bits, intricate carbon setups linked to biology here. The Curiosity and Perseverance bots have bored into lake-formed sediments, uncovering chem clues matching tiny life forms. Nothing confirms past organisms, but it shows Mars once offered the basics: flowing water, steady temps, energy for biology. Jumping from bugs to brains and gadgets? That's a whole other hurdle, needing eons of growth without wipeouts. Unless the wipeout hit after smarts arose, after societies rose, after they gazed at the stars and pondered the cosmos beyond. Brandenburg's isotope traces don't spread evenly over Mars. They cluster in certain zones, pointing to focused rather than broad planetary shifts. These anomalies point to localized incidents. Everyday reasons might involve volcanic activity, asteroid strikes that unearthed buried layers with distinct isotope makeup, or wind patterns in the atmosphere that we haven't puzzled out yet. Still, such ideas demand a string of unlikely flukes, a series of unusual occurrences that mimic the telltale signs of atomic blasts by sheer chance. Occam's razor, the principle favoring the least complicated account, works in both directions here. Which is easier, inventing obscure geological mechanisms or conceding that Mars could have once supported a society that faced a brutal demise? And if that downfall happened, what or who brought it about? Brandenburg's theory even floats the chance of outside interference, like an assault from fellow solar system dwellers or intruders from farther out. The consequences boggle the mind. It suggests a dark forest setup where sophisticated societies wipe out rivals in the bud to avoid future dangers. It implies that 3 Atlas, linked to some long-ago clash, could be a remnant, a tool of war, or a cautionary signal. It hints we're drifting amid the wreckage of battles beyond our grasp, wandering a stellar boneyard without a clue about the powers molding the worlds we're just starting to probe. Or perhaps Brandenburg's off base. Those isotope traces boil down to mundane causes. Mars never birthed smart beings, and 3I Atlas's path skimming the rusty world is purely serendipitous. Just one random path in a vast universe where orbits brush by plenty of bodies. Yet even if he's mistaken on the reasons, he's spot on regarding the outcomes. In relative quick geological time, Mars shed its air blanket in a disaster. It once flowed with rivers and maybe even spots fit for life. Today, it's hushed, crimson, lifeless, and eerily vacant. And 3I Atlas's swing by Mars, tighter than to any other rock in our neighborhood, calls for more than dismissals or reliance on luck. The gamma-ray data stands out especially. Instruments like NASA's Fermi telescope, along with others, have charted the high-energy cosmos, picking up bursts from exploding stars, collapsed giants, distant beacons, and intense emitters. Mars registers gamma rays matching routine radioactive breakdown in its rocky shell. That said, certain experts have flagged oddities, bright spots that don't quite match up with familiar terrain. These might stem from glitches in readings, quirks from viewing perspectives, or echoes of blasts from eons back. Gamma bursts from blasts would fade fast, but the leftover isotopes from such events linger, still pumping out their unique signals. Should 3 Atlas have picked these up across the void? If its tech can chart element spreads from light years away, then zeroing in on Mars fits. Head back to the origin that launched you. The place that could hold salvageable info, sleeping outposts, frozen biological samples in hidden frost, or buried deep in the soil, safe from stellar rays. Gather what's gatherable, stir what's stirrable, or just observe, log the planet's current form, and haul that knowledge to the following stop. That near miss on October 3rd could transcend mere flyby. If 3I Atlas is beaming signals or launching mini-scouts, as a few psychics proposed, the red dust ball is the prime spot. Tiny craft able to touch down, slip into hidden tunnels via old lava paths, reach key zones without tripping our basic ground ops. They wouldn't pop on satellite snaps, too minuscule, too swift, too cleverly concealed. We could notice knock-on signs, like signal glitches, odd vapor jets, shifts in gas levels, but pinning those on extraterrestrial gadgets instead of routine Mars weather takes a stretch few researchers will buy. Cliff High's claim that we're offshoots of Martians dovetails with spreading ideas on life seeding across space. If bugs from Mars hitched rides to Earth on space rocks, a route we confirm via Martian meteorites here from old crashes. And if those kick-started our planet's biology, then Earth and Mars critters stem from the same root, kinfolk divided by deep time and worlds apart yet tied. Suppose Martian organisms hit smarts ahead, mastered the stars, saw their home failing, and shipped genes or tiny crews our way. Then we're beyond linked. We're heirs. Mars's inheritance pulses in our genes, our blueprint, the urge to venture outward that draws us homeward to the scarlet orb like heeding a deep-rooted summons. This stays in the realm of guesswork, teetering at evidence's brink, but it draws from solid ground. The blueprint of life on Earth, universal across all, built on DNA and RNA structures on the object, seems strikingly efficient, as though intentionally crafted instead of emerging from chance mutations and natural selection. The concept of panspermia, be it spontaneous or guided, provides a rationale for life's swift emergence on Earth soon after the world grew cool enough for liquid water, sidestepping the staggering odds against abiogenesis, the spontaneous birth of life from inert chemicals. Should Mars have sown the seeds for Earth, and if 3E Atlas is investigating that long-ago event, its path and actions align flawlessly. This isn't a mere stopover, it's a homecoming. The close pass by Mars marked a colossal mischance in human exploration history. 6 probes circled the planet, several landers dotted its surface. We had ample foreknowledge of the inbound visitor, yet all we managed was a single fuzzy animated clip and a few enthusiast-enhanced snapshots. Crucial insights went untapped: detailed spectral analysis at peak proximity, signal detection via radio for potential broadcasts, magnetic field scans for engineered EM signals, thermal imaging to spot energy outputs. Priorities shifted elsewhere, or perhaps results remain classified. Our grasp of 3E Atlas builds from voids, from withheld details, from inconsistencies in the official account that suggest bungling or deliberate cover-up. Mars stays mute, yielding no resolutions, just escalating mysteries. A realm that could have nurtured biology, witnessed civilizations bloom and crumble, possibly launched humanity's lineage, and now served as a near-miss waypoint for a cosmic wanderer drawn or steered to skim its crimson plains. As 3E Atlas presses onward, hurtling to its Jupiter encounter and ultimate departure from the solar system, Mars fades into the distance behind it. Yet the link endures, the potential resonates, the ramifications persist. We can't erase the hints we've caught, can't banish the ideas that an ancient society and this modern arrival might weave into one tale. A narrative that enfolds us, prepared or not. Chapter 3. The Deep State Hypothesis. October 1st, 2025. Congressional impasse over medical aid funding and fiscal reforms forces A.U.S. government closure. 15,000 NASA staff face furloughs. The organization's site halts fresh posts. Outreach departments fall quiet. 2 days on, 3E Atlas reaches its nearest point to Mars, presenting humanity's prime window ever for scrutinizing an extrasolar visitor. The alignment feels suspiciously disastrous, sparking doubts. Is this mere bungling, the standard mess of administrative machinery, or a premeditated ploy to stall or bury findings on the true sightings? Speculation forums ignited back in July upon 3E Atlas's initial spotting, buzzing with notions from reasonable to outlandish. Peel back the wildest assertions, though, and core queries linger without credible responses from authorities. What prompted the shutdown at that exact juncture? Why hold back orbital data from Mars probes for days, even as ESA, untangled from American political drama, also postponed disclosures? Why did Representative Anna Paulina Luna need to press NASA head Patrick Duffy directly just to confirm scopes trained on 3E Atlas amid the Mars pass? And most disturbingly, why has the actuarial sector, which routinely assesses threats from storms to coronal ejections, uttered nothing on the risks posed by this erratic interstellar arrival? Various analysts and insiders frame the deep state angle as 3E being orchestrated as a contrived emergency, a staged provocation meant to rationalize drastic actions. Worldwide quarantines, seizure of assets, declaration of military rule, centralization of control via crisis doctrines. The strategy is time-tested. Regimes have long leveraged outer perils, genuine or fabricated, to broaden their reach and restrict liberties. The issue isn't if such tactics occur, records confirm they do, but if 3E Atlas furnishes the pretext, and if factions in officialdom and spy networks gear up to seize it. Consider the shutdown more closely. The stated cause: partisan stalemate on internal agendas. Democrats and Republicans deadlocked on budget proposals. Yet it kicked off October 1st, right as Mars monitoring prep ought to have ramped up. Analysis workflows required setup. Outreach plans finalized. Research groups syncing across bureaucracies and borders. Chaos ensued instead. NASA personnel barred from networks, cut off from viewing timetables, silenced in sharing results. Standard functions that typically persist through halts, such as oversight for operational probes, suffered interruptions. Then, on August 28th, well ahead of the closure, President Biden issued an executive order there rebranding NASA into a key player in national intelligence and security. The stated rationale was pretty hazy, mentioning coordination on evaluating space hazards and safeguarding vital systems. In reality, though, this means NASA's observations and activities are now governed by strict national security secrecy rules. Details on what NASA spots, especially anything hinting at dangers, can stay hidden from everyone forever, all in the name of safeguarding the nation. Pretty opportune moment, right? Reshaping NASA's role just months ahead of when this odd interstellar visitor hits its prime viewing phase. Then, they pull the plug on all public-facing activities right during that phase, making sure any discoveries get locked down, vetted, twisted, or shelved based on whatever fits the official narrative. On September 30th, the day prior to the blackout, more than 800 top-ranking officers, generals and admirals across every U.S. military branch gathered at the Quantico Marine Corps base. The cover story? A standard update session. But you don't round up 800 high-level commanders for anything ordinary. These are the top echelons, the strategists, the ones calling the shots, who'd have to sync up if some major emergency plan was in the works. Certain analysts link this assembly to the fresh redesignation of the Department of Defense as the Department of War. It's an old-fashioned sounding tweak, but it hints at pivoting from mere defense to proactive aggression readiness. What exactly did they discuss? No clue. Yet the schedule, one day before NASA's silence, 2 days prior to 3I Atlas approaching Mars, points straight to that object as the focus. Maybe intel breakdowns on its makeup. Maybe backup plans in case it's aggressive. Maybe syncing efforts with allies abroad. Or, more ominously, strategies for shaping public views and preserving stability. If 3I Atlas ends up being what some dread, a vessel, a scout, the start of interaction or clash, the fallback would involve guiding reactions. The insurance giant's quiet stance stands out even more. These firms have vast teams of analysts dedicated to forecasting dangers and setting premiums to match. They crunch numbers on storms, quakes, outbreaks, solar bursts, any event capable of massive harm. Lately, they've even woven in climate shifts for future projections. But 3I Atlas, which a Harvard astrophysicist pegs at a 40% likelihood of artificial origins, and whose path through our system might enable it to release probes aimed at Earth according to certain simulations, has sparked not a peep from the sector in public. No reports, no hazard evaluations, no tweaks to rates for space-based perils. This might indicate they've deemed 3I Atlas a non-issue, merely a comet worth ignoring. Or it suggests they've received discreet guidance via off-the-record routes. That airing thoughts on 3I Atlas openly wouldn't benefit anyone. It could spark hysteria, rattle financial markets, unleash economic chaos far worse than any direct impact from the thing itself. Better to hush it up, manage it tightly, and let folks assume it's simply another cosmic pebble. If trouble brews, handle it later. For now, sustain the facade of everyday life. That's precisely where the false flag ideas start to stick. Suppose you aim to fake an extraterrestrial incursion, not genuine, but one that feels real. How would you pull it off? Start with a believable otherworldly danger, vague enough to interpret however suits your goals. 3I Atlas, with its peculiarities and mysteries, slots in ideally. Secure dominance over info flows, so only sanctioned takes hit the airwaves. The NASA overhaul and pause nail that down. Build armed forces preparedness without raising alarms, masking buildups as drills. The Quantico Summit covers that angle and set up ways to roll out crisis measures, restrictions, quarantines, travel bans, sold as essential against an unmatched menace. Such presidential directives are already on the books, pinned post 9/11 and refreshed over time. Project Blue Beam, that conspiracy notion from the 90s, sketches this very plot. A fabricated extraterrestrial encounter leveraging cutting-edge holograms and mind games to persuade the world that aliens are attacking or arriving as saviors, paving the way for a unified global authority to counter it. Plenty of experts wave off Blue Beam as overly complex, demanding tech and teamwork no single regime could muster. Still, core ideas like exploiting an outside peril to consolidate power are classic moves in international strategy. Skip the holograms if you've got a real interstellar anomaly on hand. All you require is command over how that object gets portrayed. David Wilcock, a prominent researcher and whistleblower who has built a dedicated audience by sharing purported insider details from government insiders, has long cautioned against the possibility of fabricated extraterrestrial invasion plots. Drawing from his contacts, he outlines various backup strategies that feature Dyson spheres, enormous man-made constructs potentially portrayed as menacing superstructures, and approaching entities such as 3E Atlas, which might serve as the central plot device in a psychological operation. These insiders claim the objective isn't to conceal the reality of alien life. That truth is already seeping out via numerous avenues. Instead, the aim is to shape the narrative of initial encounter to favor entrenched power elites. Present it as a danger, not a chance for growth. Engineer it as an emergency demanding unified control, rather than a discovery that could empower individuals by turning their gaze to the stars instead of state authorities. The emergence and trajectory of 3-2 Atlas strike certain observers as oddly convenient. Set for July 2025, amid widespread political turmoil, financial pressures, eroding faith in establishments, surging nationalism clashing with calls for global oversight. This celestial visitor doesn't appear in an era of cohesion and readiness, but one of division and diversion. If the intent were to leverage a space-based occurrence for geopolitical gains, you'd prefer a populace that's unsteady, doubtful, and eager for leaders to deliver clarity and protection. The 2020 health crisis script illustrated how swiftly societies can adapt to curbs on travel, business, and gatherings when confronted with an unseen peril that's baffling and depicted as a survival issue. 3 Atlas mirrors that setup, undetectable by the naked eye sans observatories, baffling even to specialists, and possibly world-altering if it aligns with lows and similar speculations. Yet, to give the counterargument its due, perhaps the operational halt stemmed purely from poor scheduling, tied to political gridlock unrelated to 3 Atlas. Perhaps NASA's category shift arose from genuine worries over orbital dangers, from satellite-destroying arms to meteor collision hazards. And the alignment with 3I Atlas could be mere chance. Perhaps the Quantico session tackled a range of disconnected matters, with those 800 senior officers debating funding priorities or defense strategies for earthly disputes. Perhaps the insurance sector's quietude reflects their calculations of minimal danger, or simply their disinterest in cosmic phenomena without past records of triggering covered damages. Such accounts hold water. Bureaucratic blunders outnumber deliberate plots in government annals. Departments struggle to sync up. Messages get lost. Key developments fall between procedural gaps. The pause hindering NASA's handling of 3I-8S might truly be no more than it seems, a string of regrettable, isolated choices. Still, the alignment endures upon reviewing the timeline. The August presidential directive, the September armed forces session, the October closure, the postponed disclosures, the unified hush from various countries' space outfits, the absence of actuarial reactions. It suggests either an unlikely chain of flukes or a deliberate push to manage knowledge and gear up for scenarios kept from the masses. Havel, queried on whether he thinks NASA and peers are withholding details beyond what's public, stated plainly no. He chalks up the lags to earthly folly, not cosmic secrets. In his perspective, the closure and ensuing data drought embody human error, not orchestrated deceit. Lowe, though, harbors a hopeful streak, trusting that research bodies, for all their shortcomings, chase accuracy in the end. Skeptics are harsher, citing past instances of states suppressing data on anomalous sky sightings, near misses with nukes, or intel reports clashing with official lines. So, if concealment is afoot, what might they be guarding? A scenario could involve the Mars PASB photos revealing irrefutable evidence, formations on 3 Atlas that scream artificial origins, subordinate craft deploying, trajectory shifts defying natural forces like venting or pulse. Dropping that without groundwork, sans a public comprehension strategy, without global alignment on handling it, risks chaos. Financial systems might collapse as folks doubt if long-term economic forecasts hold amid impending interstellar dialogue. Faith groups could splinter under unforeseen truths challenging their teachings. Civil stability might crumble as individuals reject earthly norms on the cusp of otherworldly involvement. Or conversely, the visuals might reveal zilch out of the ordinary, affirming 3I Atlas as merely an oddball comet, and the data suppression in this case stems from sluggish administrative hurdles, rather than material deemed too delicate for disclosure. Conspiracy enthusiasts are mistaking random fluctuations for intentional designs, spotting unity in pure disorder, and pinning sinister motives on events that sheer incompetence explains just fine. Reality, as usual, probably lies midway between these extremes. Certain details are indeed being held back, but not as evidence of extraterrestrial visitors. Instead, to prevent the dangers of sharing early findings that could be misconstrued, opting for a wait until results are solid. One indisputable fact remains. The public craves updates, and without clear official openness, while the alternative stories take root. The involvement of Representative Luna underscores this tension. She hails from a Florida area that includes the Kennedy Space Center, where locals have a strong passion for space ventures. During the NASA blackout amid the shutdown, she reached out directly to the director by phone, insisting that funds be directed toward monitoring the 3I Atlas. Her push led to telescopes being redirected and crucial observations being gathered that might have otherwise been missed. This exemplifies effective public accountability in action, a chosen official making sure government bodies prioritize citizen needs, despite bureaucratic drag or hidden agendas that could sideline vital efforts. Yet Luna's reach is just one limited perspective. If factions inside NASA, the armed forces, or spy networks aim to bury discoveries related to 3 Atlas, no lone lawmaker could halt them. Secrecy rules, security barriers, and cross-agency pacts that outrank legislative checks all offer ways to lock away truths. The masses would get only the sanitized version or whatever suits the moment, with the full picture staying sealed until an eventual breach or final confession drags it out years down the line. Elon Musk's quiet stance on 3I Atlas raises eyebrows too. As head of SpaceX, he runs a vast fleet of Starlink satellites, dreams of settling Mars, and often weighs in on cosmic happenings and space regulations. Still, he stayed mum in public about 3I Atlas, even though it's possibly the biggest celestial occurrence in years. Perhaps he views it as trivial, merely a comet unworthy of notice. Or maybe guidance came his way suggesting that touching the subject could stir unnecessary alarm or fuel baseless plots. More tantalizingly, it might be that he holds deeper insights via SpaceX deals and clearance levels, insights not available to outsiders, and he's decided that holding his tongue advances his goals more than speaking out. The notion of a staged event, where 3 Atlas serves as a pretext for a preset scheme, doesn't demand the thing itself be fabricated. It merely calls for twisting the reaction to it, turning real doubts and valid worries into tools for advancing agendas. Should 3I Atlas simply glide by without incident and depart, the steps taken in response, the monitoring setups, the crisis authorities, the global teamwork frameworks, won't vanish. They'll embed themselves into the system. They'll form enduring elements of oversight that linger well beyond the threat that sparked them. That's the strategic calculus of leveraging emergencies. Foster or permit a situation where danger looms. Roll out responses to tackle it, then lock those responses in forever, citing the ever-present risk of repeats. It's the pattern behind short-term war rules turning into fixed policy. It's how urgent directives evolve into everyday protocols. Whether 3I Atlas is a comet or something engineered, it offers a shield for reshaping worldwide control systems, broadening watch networks, ramping up armed readiness, moves that could spark backlash without some outside trigger. Alternatively, and we must hold this option open, those gearing up might simply be fulfilling their duty, evaluating an odd visitor from beyond our stars as a possible danger, sealing records pending confirmation, rallying defense heads for scenario planning, building readiness plans for dire possibilities amounts to smart handling of threats. Perhaps we ought to appreciate that authorities are treating 3 Atlas with gravity, even if that gravity shows up as guardedness and restriction instead of openness and dialogue. The issue lies in how, from afar, solid planning and scheming opportunism appear the same until results expose motives. And by that point, pushback may be impossible if the motives were foul. Coming events will shed light on plenty. As 3-2 Atlas swings back into view from solar shadow in December, once sightings resume and fresh details arrive, we'll gauge if the bodies and groups holding back now, whether the government decides to disclose it, provide any rationale, or involve the public versus keeping everything under wraps. The outcome remains crucial. Should openness prevail, With clear images and straightforward evaluations of what 3-2 Atlas represents and its implications, we could chalk up the holdup to standard procedures, no matter how aggravating. But if the quiet persists, if information stays under lock and key, and just polished overviews emerge while key specifics remain concealed, it becomes tougher to brush aside concerns over shadowy government plots or setups for staged incidents. The events of December will reveal more than just the truth behind 3 Atlas. They'll expose the nature of our current reality. A society where authorities uphold citizens' access to knowledge, or one where they prioritize agendas that demand the masses stay uninformed, obedient, and subdued. Chapter 4. Hidden Space Initiatives. Imagine if 3 Atlas isn't hurtling in from distant stars, but making its way back from an expedition launched many years, or even ages, prior. Suppose this entity isn't an outsider, but something recognizable? Not extraterrestrial, but tied to humanity's past in manners that mainstream accounts refuse to recognize. This idea might seem pulled from a sci-fi novel at first glance, but it gains traction when you scrutinize the steady stream of insider revelations, the odd voids in official space records, and the puzzling tech developments hinting that our reach into the cosmos surpasses what's admitted publicly. Solar Warden. That term surfaces in unsealed files, accounts from armed forces and spy agency members, and assertions from cyber intruders who supposedly infiltrated secure systems. The narrative suggests that back in the 1980s, after years of clandestine partnerships with alien groups or tech salvage from downed craft recovery efforts, the U.S. along with partner countries built a covert armada for space. We're talking not just orbiters or reusable shuttles, but full-fledged maritime-style ships designed for ventures past our planet's pull, tackling extended voyages to the solar system's fringes and maybe even venturing to close-by stellar realms. These reports pile up in such volume that rejecting every one demands picturing an elaborate scam or widespread hallucination. Take Gary McKinnon, the UK-based intruder who penetrated American defense systems around the early 2000s. He insists he uncovered lists of off-world personnel, vessel-to-vessel handoffs, and craft designations that matched no recognized naval or aerial fleet. Authorities nearly shipped him across the Atlantic for prosecution that could have locked him away for years, implying his intrusion struck at truly guarded material. What he described, sources of pure power, gravity-defying engines, signs of bases on Luna and the Red Planet, echoes narratives from other leakers, even without any links between them. Then there's Corey Goode, a key voice in these circles, who alleges 2 decades of duty in a clandestine orbital operation, involving trips to the fourth rock from the Sun, encounters with various off-world races, and activities spanning our star neighborhood. His disclosures cover pacts among human groups and so-called Nordic or Pleiadian entities, described as human-like, statuesque, light-skinned, highly engineered, yet committed to ideals of non-interference and slowly nurturing mankind's awareness. Good stories can't be confirmed outright, muddied by ties to folks pushing questionable mystical ideas. Yet parts of what he shares line up with independent accounts, pointing to either a common lore or actual involvement in some buried initiative. Linking 3 Atlas to Solar Warden or comparable setups proposes that this thing blasted off long ago, perhaps amid the 1960s peak of Cold War orbital rivalries under heavy veils of secrecy, tasked with probing beyond our system, hunting viable planets, or linking up with societies picked up via signal detection. Powered by drives kept from the spotlight, like nuclear fusion or wilder methods that bypass traditional fuels, the vehicle hit speeds that now make it look like it's inbound from far-off voids, when really it's circled the system's edges or adjacent star zones and is heading back. So why show up at this moment? It could be that the assignment called for a timed reentry, or maybe the vessel spotted an issue demanding planetary warning, a danger, a chance, intel from its travels that ground teams must fold into broader tactics. It might be that glitches forced an early retreat, the ship battered or running low, no longer fit for its goals and needing retrieval. Alternatively, this could form a deliberate unveiling tactic, letting the vessel's homecoming ease out the reality of the classified fleet as a find instead of a confession, sidestepping the uproar from owning up to generations of deception and off-books funding. The exact trajectory of 3 Atlas this theory finds backing in the object's flight path. Its route across the inner solar system, which syncs up neatly with the orbits of planets and swings by Mars and Jupiter, suggests purposeful steering over mere chance in space. The emissions of pure nickel, free from iron, in its metallic output may stem not from typical venting, but from engine exhaust tied to fusion or fission processes, producing odd isotopic patterns that puzzle experts in comet studies. Absent the usual comet tail, the bright forward shimmer seen in Hubble photos might indicate a propulsion exhaust instead of sunlight warming icy surfaces. The link to Nordics or Pleiadians brings further intrigue. For years, numerous accounts from contactees and abductees have detailed meetings with entities matching this profile, who say they hail from the Pleiades star cluster, about 400 to 450 light-years away from our planet. They often come across as helpful, worried about human progress, especially our nukes and ecological harm, delivering cautions and advice. Should such a society be real and keeping tabs on Earth, perhaps working quietly with our governments or armed forces, then 3I Atlas could represent a shared effort, a spacecraft built and staffed by humans alongside Nordic teams, dispatched for intel collection and now heading back with results. This idea neatly accounts for why officials handle 3I Atlas with both hush-hush tactics and unease. If it's partly ours, owning up to its origins would expose unauthorized initiatives, bankrolled via hidden funds and shadowy dealings, harnessing tech that could transform power sources and travel, but also upend industries reliant on oil and old-school aviation. The fallout in economics, politics, and society would be huge, giving those profiting from the status quo every reason to block or steer such upheaval. Red Sky pops up in related discussions as another initiative name, viewed sometimes as a predecessor or side project to Solar Warden. The specifics blur a bit, but the core assertion is that from the 1950s onward, post-Roswell crash and other supposed recoveries, the U.S. started dissecting alien tech, scoring advances in drives, materials, and power tech. Come the 1970s, these innovations had ripened enough for rough outings past the moon. In this telling, Apollo served as a smokescreen, flaunting a basic take on our space skills to the masses. Meanwhile, true ventures unfolded in the shadows with vehicles free from rocket fuel dependency. The supposed Apollo 20 flight in 1976, hushed up officially, reportedly touched down on the moon's hidden side to probe a wrecked ship spotted in satellite shots. The team allegedly uncovered a massive, stretched artifact half-sunk into the surface, with traits hinting at man-made design. Certain details, like its cigar form, divided body, and metal makeup, echo reports on 3 Atlas, sparking ideas that the lunar wreck and the current solar system visitor belong to the same craft lineage, maybe from one overarching alien effort. The purported Apollo 20 video, surfacing online and debated as real or fake artistry, depicts probing the wreck's insides, revealing gadgets, and even a life form held in stasis-like sleep. If accurate, if we salvaged that moon craft, mimicked it, launched our duplicate, and it's looping back now, then 3 Atlas marks the peak of a 100-year saga in clandestine space tech growth. It implies, too, that brushes with alien minds didn't kick off with 3I Atlas's 2025 entry, but stretch back through recs, grabs, talks, and packs kept from the public. The push for UFO openness, the Defense Department's nod to unexplained sky events, the setup of study groups and probes, all might pave the way for dropping truths on ops like Solar Warden and items like 3I Atlas. Jean Vivano, a researcher into the esoteric and a program host, spins a naughtier tale of rival alien groups with covert space efforts squeezed between them. Drawing from claimed insiders and experiencers, his intel paints 3 Atlas as under reptilian alien command, figures from old myths and fresh UFO tales as aggressive or power-driven, guided by instincts for survival and control. These entities are said to be wrapped up in a dispute involving Nordic or Pleiadian groups, along with various others, centers on dominating Earth and its inhabitants, treating people as assets to exploit instead of beings worthy of advancement. Within this framework, initiatives like Solar Warden and comparable efforts serve partially to safeguard planetary concerns amid this larger struggle, functioning much like a stellar patrol service that tracks activity across the solar system, blocks unsanctioned entries, and bargains with diverse alien entities to preserve some level of independence for humanity. The arrival of 3I-8 Loss at this moment could signal an intensification by reptilian entities, a scouting effort probing terrestrial safeguards, or an endeavor to reconnect with operatives or installations situated on or under the planet's surface. That October pass by Mars may have aimed at inspecting sites or subterranean bases from an era when the red planet supported life, verifying that such resources stay functional or accessible. This storyline defies confirmation or refutation based on current data, residing firmly in the domain of unverified accounts. Yet it provides a rationale for why numerous nations appear equally alarmed and ill-equipped concerning 3-2 Atlas. Should it tie into a recognized clash, a foreseen progression in a persistent scenario, the reaction indicates tactical maneuvering over outright surprise. If it remains unfamiliar, truly unforeseen even after years of purported covert space endeavors, that implies either such initiatives are fictional or they've been caught off guard by an element beyond their surveillance capabilities. An alternative viewpoint arises from investigators exploring the notion of a galactic federation, positing that sophisticated societies establish collaborative alliances for shared gains and interstellar oversight. Here, 3-2 Atlas isn't merely a vessel from one culture, but rather a hub, a traveling outpost utilized by several groups for anchoring, maintenance, information sharing, and joint operations. Descriptions from remote viewers of reptilian, avian, and crystalline beings all aboard the craft align with this idea of a diverse orbital facility. The craft enters our solar neighborhood not for direct engagement with our world in particular, but as a practical waypoint along paths linking more crucial locales, akin to a roadside pit stop on a galactic expressway. Should clandestine human space ventures have attained travel between stars, even if limited to proximate systems or the Oort cloud, they would probably cross paths with these Federation relay vessels. First encounters could date back many years, sparking discussions over humanity's role, our inclusion or barring from Federation affairs, the guidelines shaping our evolution and external involvement. The present transit of 3-2 Atlas might signify a routine evaluation, a team assessing our advancement, determining if we've achieved standards in tech and societal growth that render us eligible for wider interstellar involvement. The study of its exhaust pattern merits deeper scrutiny. 3-2 Atlas is shedding substance, evident from Hubble imagery capturing matter streaming from it sunward. Yet its path remains unaltered, demanding that the expulsion be either evenly distributed in every direction to yield no overall push, or that the body possesses such immense scale that any expelled force proves insignificant. A Loeb estimated that its bulk surpasses 33 billion tons for the equations to align with spontaneous venting. However, if the releases stem not from random venting but deliberate maneuvering, perhaps fusion engines, ionic thrusters, or novel mechanisms, then the impetus might be targeted, enabling minor adjustments that sustain the exact route we detect. This demands onboard systems under deliberate oversight, just as one anticipates from a crew-operated or AI-directed vessel. The elemental makeup lends further credence. Emissions of unadulterated nickel, devoid of iron, strike as chemically odd for a comet, where a blend mirroring cosmic nucleosynthesis proportions would be anticipated. Yet for a fusion apparatus relying on targeted isotopes, the outputs would mirror the feedstock and process, possibly yielding nickel-heavy results. Certain cutting-edge fusion ideas incorporate nickel variants. And although we haven't conquered such processes here on Earth, a society with ages or eons of progress undoubtedly could. The lack of iron may thus not demand justification as a quirk, but instead serve as a marker revealing the drive mechanism, a telltale sign proclaiming, this is engineered. This is deliberate. For a solar warden expedition dispatched in the 1960s or 70s and circling back presently, speeds of roughly 1 to 5% the speed of light would be necessary, varying by the span covered. That's far beyond disclosed capabilities, though feasible in theory via fusion impulse drives, antimatter-enhanced fusion, or other notions surfacing in restricted studies. The travel duration would span decades, necessitating either cryogenic stasis for the personnel, the design of a multi-generational vessel, or perhaps AI oversight without much human involvement, comes to mind. That 3I Atlas displays no clear evidence of harm, no erratic spinning or random gas leaks, points to either exceptional durability or ongoing upkeep throughout its travels, which hints at operational machinery still at work. Should this turn out to be one of our own vessels returning, it would mean folks back on Earth are aware some mission hub tucked away in a remote bunker or arid outpost has been monitoring its path, picking up signals, and maybe even exchanging messages with anyone or anything inside during the dormant phase. The cloak and dagger approach, the postponed sharing of information, they're not trying to conceal a mystery, but rather to manage the unveiling of that mystery, choosing the right moment and method to acknowledge that humanity has truly ventured deep into space for generations. That the tools exist to end energy shortages, to launch journeys between stars, to reshape society entirely, yet they've stayed under wraps for motives tied to authority, greed, and dominance. The profound emotional implications hit hard here. If this holds water, it validates every spacefarer who braved those primitive, fuel-based launches. Every researcher dismissed as dreaming when they claimed superluminal speeds were feasible. Every pioneer mocked for pushing beyond the supposed limits. They were spot on, and the cover-up was intentional. It signifies that solutions for averting environmental disasters, for pulling countless people out of fuel scarcity, for venturing into the stars, they're real, but guarded by an elite group that thrives on shortages and restrictions. It implies the awe and motivation sparked by cosmic voyages have been deliberately muted. The edge of discovery held just out of grasp to preserve reliance on terrestrial hierarchies. Yet it could also signal that the big reveal is on the horizon. Objects like 3I Atlas, regardless of whether they stem from covert space initiatives, are sparking vital discussions on possibilities, concealments, and human potential. Its oddities defy standard explanations from comet studies, stirring up mental friction that invites consideration of other ideas. If coming clean is a gradual unfolding rather than a sudden bombshell, then 3I Atlas acts as a spark, a key piece of evidence too weighty to dismiss, nudging views from mere theory closer to acceptance. And once that acceptance arrives, if we discover these artifacts are indeed human-made, have always been ours, the focus shifts from identification to action. How do we apply this insight? The Nordic alliance element, assuming it's legitimate, indicates that people aren't isolated in opposing harmful alien meddling. The storyline of reptilians clashing with Nordics, once you peel away the charged labels, echoes a recurring motif in extraterrestrial politics studies. Rival groups with contrasting views on meddling, oppression against liberty, conquest against partnership. Nordics are said to champion human independence and slow enlightenment, offering tech and advice without enforcing rule. Reptilians, or whatever their true nature, is thought to function through rigid dominance systems where power dictates fairness and the powerful subjugate the vulnerable. These represent tactical mindsets, not ethical verdicts, and hidden space efforts partnering with Nordic groups would embody a decision on the sort of universe we aim to join and the society we aspire to build. The transit of 3I Atlas across our system could serve as a trial for that decision. Do we possess the awareness to identify what we're observing? Are we cohesive enough to react as one? Are we developed enough to cope with reality, no matter its form? Or do we persist in splintering along group lines, fixated more on narrative ownership than its disclosures? If covert space operations are real, they function within a framework where such dilemmas have long been resolved via deeds. They've forged connections. They've bargained. They've picked alliances. The broader public, left in the dark, has missed out on those chances. 3I Atlas presents that opening today, a moment to gaze skyward, to pose the tough inquiries, to insist on openness, and to embrace that the cosmos we imagined is narrower, less seasoned, and more naive than the one that's truly out there. The notion of an interstellar relay hub merits closer examination as it untangles various inconsistencies. If 3I Atlas is enormous, spanning kilometers and accommodating diverse life forms, functioning as a roaming hub for activities over vast cosmic spans, its path near our system isn't centered on us at all. Humanity is merely peripheral scenery, an undeveloped society on a fringe planet conveniently close to a handy stop for resupply or info swap. The insights from distant observers noting bustling interiors, varied beings, advanced setups. They're witnessing a vibrant orbital outpost, a galactic diplomatic center where assorted societies team up on endeavors stretching across star systems and epochs beyond our grasp. Under this view, projects like Solar Warden or their counterparts have long engaged with these relay vessels, set up interaction guidelines, and possibly even dispatched crew members on board. The veil of confidentiality isn't about the mere presence of Three-Eyed Atlas. It's about our species' entanglement with it. We've been woven into a vast interstellar network for years, all while the masses are fed stories of isolation, that we're the sole inhabitants of the universe, that voyages between stars are a distant dream, that encounters with other worlds are pure speculation. Unveiling this truth would demand disclosures on the motives for concealment, the origins of the advanced tech we've acquired, the pacts that have been forged, and the shadowy figures in defense and spy agencies who have shaped our fate without a vote from the people they impact. So, Three-Eyed Atlas's reappearance isn't some groundbreaking landing. It's just a planned stopover, a milestone in a long-standing alliance. The ramped-up vigilance could stem from this trip carrying fresh elements, a team seeking concessions, an evaluation underway, or a pivotal juncture where talks invisible to the world could steer our collective path. With the administration halting operations and clamping down on leaks, any developments during Three-Eyed Atlas's transit can be contained, framed, and molded into tales that safeguard the status quo, even as they hint at emerging truths. This might be the most disturbing take on the clandestine aerospace initiative theory. It's not our initial brush with extraterrestrials. It's the revelation that such brushes have been routine. And those guarding this intel have concluded that everyday folks like us couldn't handle the reality. Our responses might prove too erratic. Our calls for transformation too upheaving. Our outrage at the deception too corrosive for systems that thrive on our obedience and faith in their authority. Three-Eyed Atlas serves as a reflection not of cosmic visitors, but of our own nature. A civilization brimming with innovative spirit and bold discovery, yet equally prone to deep-seated trickery and domination. One aspiring to the cosmos, shackled by layers of hidden agendas that keep the majority earthbound. Chapter 5. Foreseen Revelations and Chronologies. December 2025. This period surfaces repeatedly in clairvoyant insights, in distant perception exercises, in conveyed transmissions, and in forebodings from diverse voices, from security experts to intuitive seers. Not as some hazy tomorrow, but as a precise turning point. An instant where paradigms alter, paths diverge, and the uncertain fluxes outlined in quantum theory solidify into concrete realities. Why does December hold such weight? Three-Eyed Atlas swings back into view from solar occlusion, observable once more from terrestrial vantage points, slipping into a phase where movements, launches, or transmissions become trackable. Yet the visionary emphasis points beyond celestial alignment. It points to an incident, a decision, an exposure that reshapes the landscape. The predictive unit, which trains seers to probe likely tomorrows instead of current or historical focuses, ran in-depth probes on Three-Eyed Atlas and kept surfacing doomsday visuals. Not symbolic ruin, but detailed depictions of electrical storms, ionized bursts, sky occurrences defying standard meteorology. Observers recount seeing Three-Eyed Atlas deploy compact entities at its closest solar approach. Scores or multitudes of scout-like vessels that hurtled toward the solar system's core worlds, harnessing solar pull in inverted orbital tactics, whipping inward at speeds beyond traditional engines. In these sightings, the diminutive scouts bypass Earth collision, instead penetrating the magnetosphere, the shield of planetary magnetism. Upon entry, they engage the ionized layer. The energized matter in the Van Allen zone sparks chain responses, appearing as global light shows akin to northern lights, observable even near the tropics. Stunning initially, captivating. But the impacts escalate. Devices malfunction not via outright pulse blasts like atomic blasts, but through generated flows in extended lines, electrical webs, signal arrays, any setup bridging expanses. The interference is targeted, hitting frameworks while sparing living organisms, implying intent over blind havoc. The prognosticators outline a divergence after this occurrence. One route sees humankind viewing the upheaval as invasion, reacting in panic by triggering defense measures, striving to intercept or neutralize the scouts, spiraling into strife against a foe beyond our grasp or countermeasures. This route spirals into turmoil, social collapse as networks stay dark, shortages igniting clashes, the fragile shell of order fracturing under pressures it was never built for. The grim wilderness hypothesis comes alive. Interaction spells disaster since we framed it as battle right away. In the alternate route, the upheaval is seen as dialogue. It seems more like a deliberate intervention or offering instead of an assault. The targeted approach of the electromagnetic disruptions stands out. While vital systems like life support and medical devices get protected, dubious financial grids and monitoring setups remain exposed, pointing to purposeful selection. An entity or force is essentially rebooting the game, stripping out harmful tech reliance and pushing towards smaller, tougher, people-centered ways of living. In this scenario, the early chaos shifts to adjustment. Folks band together in neighborhoods, forgotten abilities come back to life, and once links are back up, they're reformed, decentralized, harder to manipulate, geared more toward people's health than business gains. The route that plays out hinges on decisions right after it hits, especially from influencers who mold the story and guide actions. Should generals label it an invasion, crowds will buy into that view. But if experts and envoys call it an encounter, new paths emerge. Predictions point to December as the tipping point. That's when 3i Atlas makes its move, and how we react sets the course for our reality. Intense topic, right? Where probability math collides with foresight and quantum overlays hit societal and governmental results. Yet it dives deeper into oddity. Certain distant seers don't merely glimpse the split. They dwell in parallel strands at once, feeling the clash of clashing destinies blending. They mention time leakage, with December happenings rippling back to earlier times, sparking foreknowledge and heightened senses picking up the ripple prior to the trigger event. That could account for why numerous unrelated channels zero in on December absent solid logic. They're sensing outcomes ahead of triggers, the strands outline casting a retro shadow that feels like destined insight. Charisma magazine, aimed at Pentecostal and charismatic Christian circles, ran pieces linking 3i Atlas to end times forecasts. Those scriptural tales of the planet's last phase before godly reckoning and rebirth. The matches are compelling, enough that even doubters of faith-based takes recognize the alignment. Revelation talks of sky omens, celestial bodies dropping down, universe shakes tied to Christ's comeback or the ultimate good versus evil clash. 3i Atlas showing up overhead, seen by every country, acting in ways defying physics, slots right into that motif. The doomsday read doesn't have to spell total wipeout. In faith lingo, apocalypse signals disclosure, exposure, secrets brought to light. 3i Atlas as an apocalypse might signify it uncovers realities that close one era and launch the next. Exposing alien smarts, cutting-edge human orbital ops, or old Martian ties could shake foundations so hard that the post-world looks nothing like the pre. Foretellings turn real not via otherworldly meddling, but via mind and society shifts when bedrock ideas about humanity's cosmic spot get upended. Certain seers and Christian groups see 3i Atlas as a heavenly craft. Tech so cutting-edge it mimics wonders, piloted by entities playing guardian roles, origins cosmic over divine. The word via the CERN gateway, per Sebastian Martin's account. We arrive peacefully to collect the star seeds, echoing Bible harvest scenes of sifting the worthy from the worthless, rallying the true while rotten structures tumble. Take it straight as a lifting away moment or figuratively as a mind shift, dividing the awakened from the stuck, and it echoes age-old prophetic molds. Those glowing spheres that seers and faith sources say 3i Atlas deploys hold varied roles in the sights. On the ground, they cripple Shadow Fund ops gear, orbiters with beam weapons, nuke triggers, stuff that might endanger the thing or spark unfixable wars. But spiritually, they're tools for mind growth, sending vibes that spark hidden genes, boost third eye activity, break down walls between body and spirit senses. Here's where solid research and mystic thought merge, where assertions evade proof since they tap personal inner shifts beyond gadget checks. The starseed idea needs breaking down. In alternative and encounter writings, starseeds are spirits or awarenesses that took form on Earth from distant worlds. Starseeds are souls originating from advanced extraterrestrial civilizations or other planetary setups, who opt to incarnate on Earth to help advance humanity's development or to gain insights from the challenges of dense physical existence. They often feel like outsiders, yearning for a distant homeland they can only vaguely recall, and they're irresistibly pulled toward the stars and cosmos with a deep, unexplained sense of longing. The presence of 3 Atlas in our system suggests some kind of detection mechanism, allowing it to pinpoint souls with cosmic roots versus those who've evolved purely on this planet, with the goal of perhaps retrieving them, awakening them, or just noting their existence. Viewed through a materialistic perspective, where mind is merely a byproduct of neural processes and nothing survives the flesh, this all seems ridiculous. Yet, from an idealist viewpoint that sees awareness as the core reality from which the material world arises, these ideas take on a more coherent meaning. If mind can operate without a biological anchor, then shifting between forms, worlds, or even realms could be feasible in theory. These star seeds would represent essences that once thrived in other realms, lived varied existences, and chose embodiment here for targeted missions. Spotting them wouldn't involve genetic testing, but tuning into vibrational imprints, distinct markers of past journeys that set them apart. Reality or not, whether this is genuine or just intricate folklore, its impact remains the same. Such stories offer a structure for making sense of unusual personal encounters, fostering a sense of unity with the universe instead of solitude on a lone world, and affirming that existence holds purpose greater than mere endurance and procreation. The forecasts surrounding December, involving heightened awareness, the collection of star seeds, and broader shifts, instill optimism that today's hardships are fleeting, transformation is imminent, and the oppressive regimes weighing on humankind are short-lived constructs destined to crumble under superior influences. Psychologically potent, even if lacking hard evidence, since convictions drive actions and actions forge results. Messages from the Galactic Federation Station, relayed via diverse mediums, but prominently through the GFL Station YouTube channel, portray 3 Atlas in an uplifting light. These communiques claim the entity is emitting Lyran genetic blueprints and activation protocols that amplify those harboring latent alien lineages or mental frameworks. In this worldview, the Lyrans rank as one of the galaxy's most ancient human-like societies, forebears to numerous star-based groups like the Pleiadians and perhaps early inhabitants of Mars. Broadcasting Lyran codes signals a return to ancestral roots, revival of lost skills, and perceptions stifled during Earth's isolation phase, when we matured apart from the wider interstellar network. The messengers depict December as the climax of these signals, when our planet's alignment with 3 Atlas enables prime reception, and those receptive enough to the vibes undergo abrupt elevations in perception, resolution of bodily and mental wounds, emergence of intuitive gifts, and realignment with their core mission. This could be verified on a personal scale. If vast numbers describe abrupt shifts come December, if recoveries surpass expected probabilities, if new talents appear unbidden. Still, on a societal plane, it's hard to refute, as inner accounts resist objective denial. They're either embraced or rejected. George Cavasilas, a key figure in these explorations, situates 3 Atlas in a saga of planetary emancipation from malevolent alien dominions. He portrays today's ruling classes as marionettes or blends, beholden to extraterrestrial overlords who've treated Earth as a detention site, resource farm, or lab for eons. 3 Atlas's approach marks aid from compassionate coalitions, the cosmic equivalents of white knights, aimed at dismantling surveillance webs and empowering humans to chart their own destiny. The associated plasma discharges and EM disturbances would zero in on the machinery of domination, monitoring orbits, economic chains enforcing servitude, media pipelines sowing discord and misinformation. This storyline inspires individuals to view themselves as active participants in redemption, not helpless in the face of inexorable fate. It delineates stark foes, the Cabal, the Shadow Government, hostile ETs, and steadfast supporters, like the Galactic Federation, Nordic beings, and 3 Atlas. Such ethical straightforwardness captivates amid years of foggy international intrigue, where all sides profess virtue while branding rivals as villains. Yet, this sharpness can distort nuances, forcing dualities onto a world of gradients. And the peril in such foretold tales lies in promoting passive reliance on outside rescuers over forging our own fixes. The idea of splintering timelines warrants deep philosophical scrutiny, even if its mechanics are still largely theoretical. In quantum mechanics, superposition allows particles to occupy various states at once until measurement forces them into one definite result. Extending this to the larger scale implies that potential futures linger as diffuse probability distributions, with numerous paths unfolding concurrently until choices resolve the uncertainty into concrete reality. Those engaging in remote viewing might tap into these probability distributions, encountering diverse futures as all equally valid, since, from a quantum viewpoint, they truly are, right up to the moment the wave function collapses. Should this hold true, the precision of prophecies wouldn't demand glimpses of a fixed destiny, but rather insights into likely paths, relayed back through time to sway decisions that ultimately select which path materializes. Thus, prophecy turns into a self-defeating riddle, spot on in highlighting dangers if inaction prevails, yet off the mark if the alert spurs shifts that dodge the predicted fate. Framing December as a pivotal juncture fits neatly here, as it's when the 3-eyed Atlas becomes starkly evident and intensely operative, compelling existence itself to settle on which sequence of happenings will harden into the record of what occurred. The 2027 milestone, highlighted by forward-looking collectives and various accounts, acts as a follow-up focal point, building on this idea. If December 2025 marks the initial crossroads, initiating key actions and encounter dynamics, then 2027 signifies the solidification of repercussions. The global state emerging from those December selections grows impossible to overlook. Observers portray 2027 as profoundly altered based on the timeline fork selected, perhaps a society of abundance and collaboration, or alternatively, chaotic battles over scarce resources in a Mad Max-style wasteland. The interval from December 2025 to 2027's end provides space for early choices to ripple across structures, for chain reactions to unfold, for amplifying cycles to transform minor variations into vast splits. How should we handle this trove of visionary insights? Brush it off as mere fantasy, where the mind populates gaps with symbolic patterns and aspirations. Entirely feasible. Yet that fails to account for the striking alignment among independent sources without evident exchange, the pinpoint focus on the December schedule, or the links to celestial occurrences unknown during the era of certain ancient foretellings. Treat it as straightforward forecasts of tangible happenings? Risky. Such a direct reading fosters inertia, prompting folks to await outside forces instead of owning the task of molding results. A balanced approach might involve viewing these visions as charts of potential realms, not ironclad forecasts, outlining plausible developments tied to group decisions. They offer glimpses of imaginable tomorrows meant to motivate or caution, serving as outlines to ponder rather than rigid plots, or as markers for evaluating dangers and nurturing optimism. December arrives regardless of our faith in the visions. Whether we ready ourselves or disregard them, whether we regard the 3-eyed Atlas as peril, boon, or triviality, our actions based on those views will dictate which vision, if any, rings true. Not due to the vision dictating events, but because our reactions to it guided the selections that produced them. Chapter 6. The Dark Forest Conundrum. Picture the galaxy like a nighttime woodland, immense, timeless, teeming with vitality, yet veiled in obscurity. Each advanced society plays both pursuer and quarry, knowing that exposing one's location could attract threats of aggression. In this setting, the wisest tactic is quietude, blending in, navigating stealthily amid the shadows without emitting noises or glows that lure hunters. This forms the basis of dark forest theory, Liu Cixin's chilling yet ingenious resolution to the Fermi paradox. That enduring puzzle. Why no clear evidence of extraterrestrial minds? Even though the cosmos is ancient and expansive enough for such life to abound, the numbers add up simply. Our Milky Way hosts roughly 200 billion stars, many orbited by worlds, a portion nestled in life-friendly orbits. Even cautious projections for life's emergence point to millions of worlds ripe for biology. On our planet, evolution forged intricate forms and intellect across eons. But the universe clocks in at about 14 billion years, with our galaxy coalescing over 12 billion years back. Societies emerging just a million years ahead of ours, a mere instant cosmically, would wield tech beyond our wildest dreams. Their megastructures ought to gleam detectably. Their transmissions should saturate the void. Instead, we encounter only quiet. The profound hush. Dark forest theory unravels this via strategic analysis. When intentions of others remain unknown, benevolent or belligerent, and superior tech lets mature societies obliterate lesser ones with ease, every encounter poses a survival threat. Distance obscures motives. Bargaining from inferiority proves futile. Defense falters against overwhelming power. Thus, the surest path is concealment, wiping out any society. Spotting others out there before they spot you, and possibly wipe you out, is crucial. The cosmos isn't deserted. It's simply that anyone who's lasted this long has mastered the art of staying concealed. That's what makes 3 so alarming. If it's man-made, if it's a probe dispatched by a sophisticated society, its presence shatters our veil of secrecy. Suddenly, we're exposed, detectable, on their radar, and clueless about the consequences. Could 3-2 Atlas be a vanguard for an invading armada, evaluating our fortifications and assets? Might it serve as an initial outreach from a society offering a friendly overture? Or perhaps it's a robotic entity carrying out directives set eons ago from a world whose ruins have long vanished, pursuing objectives that ignore today's circumstances? Avi has been forthright regarding this peril. He's devised something he terms the Loeb scale, which grades cosmic wanderers from 0, purely organic, to 10, unquestionably engineered, and posing immediate danger. 3-2 Atlas lands at 4, suggesting about a 40% likelihood it's not naturally formed, a figure substantial enough to call for safeguards, but not extreme enough to spark widespread alarm. Yet that score might shift swiftly with fresh observations. Should 3-2 Atlas deploy tiny satellites come December, deviate from its path, send out transmissions, or display actions defying natural explanations, its rating surges, reaching 8 or 9 signals of verified artificial entity with motives that could turn aggressive. Hitting 10 means an assault is in progress, demanding urgent countermeasures. Trouble is, our defenses are laughably inadequate. Our top-tier armaments, like atomic warheads, reach only thousands of kilometers and travel at kilometers per second. Meanwhile, 3-2 Atlas hurtles along at 58 kilometers per second and will vacate our solar system in mere months. Interception, docking, sabotage, or even meaningful dialogue are beyond us. We're ignorant of its dialect, routines, or aims. It's like insects gazing up at a massive beast trampling through their nest, praying it avoids crushing them since we lack any sway over its route. Within asteroid protection efforts, NASA has floated ideas like deploying nukes to nudge hazardous rocks aside. The DART initiative proved the viability of kinetic strikes, ramming a probe into an asteroid to alter its course. However, such tactics presume inert bodies obeying standard laws of motion. If 3-2 Atlas is intelligently directed, if it can evade or counter, lobbing explosives its way could prove fatal. Picture igniting a blast close to an emissary from a star-faring culture. In the rosiest outcome, they dismiss our crude hostility. In the direst, they view it as an act of belligerence and retaliate in kind, which, to them, could involve eradicating the source of trouble, namely us, to avert further clashes. The dark forest hypothesis isn't mere fear-mongering, it's sober evaluation of threats. For more than 80 years, we've been beaming radio and TV waves outward. These electromagnetic waves proclaim our existence to any listeners inside an 80-light-year bubble. Countless stars lie within that volume, including those with verified worlds. Should intelligent beings dwell in any of them, they're aware of us. They've monitored our progress, detecting the chemical traces of our factories and shifts in air chemistry betraying our tech-driven ways. They've enjoyed years to strategize, dispatching envoys, drones, or squadrons that outpace us, timing their arrival for our moment of weakness, advanced enough to intrigue, yet too primitive for self-protection. 3 Atlas showing up right now, in this slim time frame, feels like either blind luck or deliberate design. Humanity stands at a pivotal stage, poised for cosmic journeys, armed with atom bombs but lacking system-wide shields, linked worldwide via gadgets yet divided by politics and instincts. We're prime targets for elevation by kind guides or exploitation by shrewd hunters. We won't discern the truth until the die is cast. The United Nations lacks any guidelines for such events. Back in 2005, the U.S. Congress directed NASA to catalog 90% of celestial boulders over 140 meters that might strike our planet, ones capable of widespread ruin on impact. 2 Atlas dwarfs that by at least 40-fold, possibly spanning over 5,000 meters across. It's not aimed at us, but the identical surveillance and alert mechanisms ought to kick in. Still, no UN Security Council summit has convened, no crisis assembly held, no worldwide plan forged for handling it. This implies either the dangers deemed trivial or the countermeasures unfold in secret forms, beyond public view or input into choices affecting us all. Avive has forwarded a position paper to the UN, pushing for a global panel dedicated to interstellar intruder risks, stressing the urgency of protocols for evaluation and action prior to a scramble under duress. His outline calls for comprehensive celestial surveillance networks. OBS facilities in both the northern and southern hemispheres are equipped to spot and monitor incoming objects, offering the longest possible alert periods. Low pushes for a massive boost in funding, warning that once we confirm contact with extraterrestrial tech, expenditures will skyrocket by a factor of 1,000, rivaling worldwide defense budgets, given the profound effects on global finances and safety. Resistance to Low's ideas emerges from various fronts. Experts claim he's stirring unnecessary panic, insisting that 3 Atlas is most likely just a comet, and shifting funds toward extraterrestrial defense setups squanders resources better used for pressing issues such as environmental shifts and outbreak readiness. Lawmakers view his calls for expansive global organizations and surveillance networks as impractical, demanding collaboration that's absent and budgets that remain unapproved without an immediate, clear danger. Meanwhile, defense agencies and spy networks favor secrecy for any existing tools, avoiding revelations to rivals about our surveillance strengths or gaps. Yet Low's core argument holds firm, irrespective of whether 3 Atlas poses a genuine risk. The cosmos is vast and ancient. The odds of intelligent life elsewhere are substantial, and our tracking tech advances swiftly. The Vera Rubin Observatory, set to activate soon, will scan the whole observable universe on repeat, uncovering millions of items annually, possibly including scores more from beyond our solar system. We're moving from a time when such visitors were uncommon shocks to one where they appear routinely, each demanding evaluation. Is it a mere stone or a vessel, a probe or a missile, organic or constructed? Robust protocols are essential to resolve these puzzles prior to one turning hostile and catching us unprepared. The insurance sector's quiet stance on space-based dangers grows alarming when considered via the dark forest perspective. Coverage is designed to gauge and spread out hazards, gearing up for rare but devastating occurrences. Impacts from asteroids, massive volcanic blasts, intense solar storms. These get analyzed and factored into insurance plans and financial approaches. However, initial interaction with potentially aggressive alien minds stands as the pinnacle of unpredictable disasters, wholly beyond current frameworks. That top insurance leaders aren't openly addressing 3-2 Atlas implies they've either deemed the danger negligible or concluded it's impossible to cover, indicating fallout so devastating that no safeguards or stockpiles could suffice. Should 3 represent an assault or its harbinger, our countermeasures boil down to fortifying against foreseen perils. For physical strikes, items hurtling at near-light speeds into urban areas or key systems, protection is limited to early alerts and relocations, though we may lack sufficient notice. If the danger involves lab-crafted diseases aimed at curbing humanity ahead of takeover, then biosecurity and swift antidote creation turn vital. Yet shielding against alien biology crafted by minds eons ahead seems doomed to fail. Should the assault be informational, propaganda, or mind games preying on our mental flaws and societal rifts, then our weaknesses are already exposed, undermined by our own gadgets that profile and sway actions for gain, rendering us prime marks for superior manipulators. The sole viable safeguard might involve staying unappealing as foes, projecting minimal visibility and modest power to evade detection, too trivial or non-threatening to warrant erasure efforts. But we've botched that approach by signaling our existence and building atomic arsenals. We're noisy and perilous, at minimum to one another, positioning us as the precise sort of budding hazard that dark forest logic deems ripe for preemptive elimination. 3 Atlas, should it embody that logic, signals a verdict on our right to persist. Alternatively, the dark forest idea could be flawed. Perhaps the galaxy harbors no enmity. Advanced societies might evolve past shortages and land grabs. They could thrive in plenty, viewing nascent minds as prospects instead of perils. The zoo concept posits Earth as a safeguarded sanctuary, intentionally isolated by watchful advanced beings tracking our progress, postponing engagement until we're ready. Star Trek's Prime Directive embodies this as a moral code, barring meddling with primitive warpless worlds. 3 Atlas might function within that oversight framework, inspecting the enclosure to confirm our organic evolution free of external meddling. The rebuttal to the zoo idea lies in its demand for universal agreement across all advanced societies, capable of getting in touch with us. Reaching agreement on that front looks unlikely, especially since people can't even settle on fundamental moral standards. If a single wayward group or an empire with clashing principles gets involved, the barrier around the zoo shatters, unless the overseeing society is extraordinarily sophisticated and dominant, able to safeguard the sanctuary from any intruders. Yet that setup brings its own challenges. A kind-hearted autocracy is still an autocracy, and we're hardly equipped to approve or refuse our role as caged specimens. Another angle is that interaction might have occurred ages ago, and what's unfolding today isn't initial outreach, but a resumption after a stretch of separation. The idea of ancient visitors shaping or sparking human society finds backing in oddities from digs and folklore. Edifices such as the pyramids of Egypt, the temples of the Maya, and the Moai on Easter Island showcase building prowess and coordination that appear too sophisticated for the eras they're tied to. Legends across global traditions speak of deities from the heavens, entities from the stars, chariots in the sky, and wisdom bestowed by visitors from on high. Should these tales reflect real meetings instead of fantasy, then the 3-2 Atlas could be those forebears circling back, evaluating the status of their project or meddling. This shifts the danger entirely. We're not facing some mysterious off-world mind, but linking up again with a familiar off-world mind that shares a past with us, harbors views on our kind, and might even stake territorial rights. The grim wilderness equation alters if we're not wild game wandering blindly in the woods, but farmed creatures in a controlled field, pets whose wandering days are wrapping up. Not inherently preferable, merely a fresh flavor of peril. Erosion of independence over outright demise, although the line may blur in reality. The urgency of the schedule is undeniable. The 3-2 Atlas will appear in December skies, swing nearest to our planet in early 2026, head off toward Jupiter afterward, and ultimately leave the solar system by late 2026. From this point, we've got about 14 months to collect evidence, draw insights, and enact measures if they're called for. That's scant leeway for sluggish bureaucracies, splintered global partnerships, or inventions that'd demand building from the ground up, mounting protections, setting up dialogues, or relocating masses. 14 months barely suffices for sorting priorities and wishing for the best. Lowe contends that the penalty for erring, brushing off the 3-2 Atlas as ordinary when it's engineered and possibly antagonistic, vastly outstrips the expense of gearing up for a menace that ends up a dud. It's wiser to over-prepare and squander supplies than to slack off and risk oblivion. The cautionary approach extended to interstellar perils. However, authorities and organizations weigh dangers differently, where overt steps that later seem needless harm reputations and standing more than unseen neglect that invites disaster outside their grasp. Nobody faces heat for failing to halt the inevitable, but all catch flack for raising alerts that fizzle out. This embodies the shadowy woods conundrum. Treat every flicker as a hunter, and you dwell in perpetual anxiety, burning assets on shields that go unused. Assume no hunters lurk, and you're caught flat-footed when one pounces. The best path demands spot-on danger evaluation, yet solid evaluation hinges on details we lack. The 3-2 Atlas hasn't struck, hasn't signaled, hasn't shown its hand. It's simply traversing our domain along a path that could be instinctive or deliberate. We're stuck speculating, mapping our anxieties and dreams onto murky signals, debating if quiet spells security or if we're exposed in a clearing as sights lock on and fingers hover over firing mechanisms. And once the blast echoes, fleeing is long past viable. Chapter 7. Surfacing and Disclosure. As I pen this, November draws near, bringing the return of the 3-2 Atlas from solar seclusion. For more than a month, the entity has evaded earthly sight, concealed in the sun's blinding light amid its prime operational phase. The perihelion skim on October 29th, when solar heat would trigger vigorous vapor release if it were a standard comet. We lack first-hand views from that pivotal interval, just the limited intel from the Mars Close Pass in early October and any secret sightings from sun-watching probes that aren't disclosing results openly. What stands clear is the 3-2 Atlas endured perihelion. Bodies nearing the sun can shatter under heat strain, splintering dramatically as frozen materials vaporize beyond what their framework can handle. The comet Ison in 2013 crumbled at its closest solar approach, fading from a vivid visible streak to a scattered haze of fragments. The 3-2 Atlas, based on available signs, persists whole and unified. Still, the interstellar interloper continues its predicted path away from the inner planets, heading deeper into the outer reaches of our solar system. While this offers hints of its nature, piecing together the full picture demands far more information than what's available right now. The European Space Agency's JUICE mission, officially the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is set to scrutinize this enigma known as 3-2 Atlas come November, en route to its primary target among Jupiter's frozen satellites. Equipped with cutting-edge tools like imaging systems, spectral analyzers, and sensors for particles, JUICE promises to deliver remarkable insights into the enigma's makeup, form, and any outflows it produces. Officials at the ESA have verified that the probe will make an effort to study 3-2 Atlas in November, possibly syncing up with NASA's Europa Clipper, which is likewise bound for the gas giant's realm. The paired UV spectrographs aboard these vessels might capture the object from varied perspectives at the same time, yielding 3D views that uncover its spatial layout and spinning habits. Yet, a major hurdle exists. At present, JUICE lingers near the sun along its path, relying on its primary high-gain dish as a thermal barrier to safeguard delicate gear. Contact with our planet occurs via a compact medium-gain antenna, slashing the bandwidth dramatically. Moreover, with JUICE positioned on the sun's far side relative to Earth, signal paths stretch to their longest, and relay windows are scarce. The ESA has been upfront. They anticipate no downloads from JUICE's 3I Atlas flyby until February 2026, a full 3 months post-event. At that point, 3I Atlas will have pressed onward beyond our planet's path, nearing Jupiter, and any antics from December will long since fade into the past. Such postponements are maddening yet inevitable, bound by the dictates of orbits and signal tech constraints. Worse, should a dramatic event unfold in December, say, if 3I Atlas ejects fragments as some remote observers foresaw, broadcasts messages, shifts direction, or displays urgent traits, we'd respond handicapped by suboptimal sightings. Ground observatories would step in, offering useful but hampered views due to air turbulence and the thing's dim glow. Orbital eyes like Hubble or the James Webb Space Telescope could pitch in if tasked accordingly. However, lining those up demands forethought amid rival demands from broader skywatching agendas. Hobbyists have plugged many holes in expert tracking and will prove vital through December. A worldwide array of backyard scopes, rallied via digital hubs and fueled by pure wonder free from red tape, enables round-the-clock vigilance. As 3i Atlas reemerges into sight, enthusiasts have already snagged shots during its inbound leg that pros overlooked, and their input will ramp up further while official setups chase elsewhere or snarl in admin holdups. Notably, one enthusiast, a YouTuber dubbed Dobsonian Power, nabbed a shot amid the Mars close approach that ignited fierce web discussions. Processed by layering shots to boost clarity amid noise, it seemed to reveal sharp-edged forms inside 3i Atlas's hazy envelope. Shadowy patches that defied the even spread typical of mere debris and vapors. These forms appeared structured, eerily engineered, sparking outlandish theories of hidden mechanisms or exposed fixtures piercing the veil. Skeptics dismissed them as glitches from the enhancement process, classic pareidolia, where our brains conjure shapes from chaos. Still, the uproar underscores our desperation for solid intel and how much guesswork fills the void with fuzzy pics from afar. The rhythmic shifts spotted in 3i Atlas's luminosity and drift during August and September scans introduce extra intrigue. Early reports in the astronomer's telegram pointed to a potential 4-hour cycle in its positional wobbles, paired with a 2-hour flux in light output. Such patterns might stem from a lopsided body's spin, with uneven surfaces scattering sunlight variably as it flips along. Alternatively, they could signal dynamic actions, targeted gas releases, rhythmic thruster bursts, or inner motions spilling out as outer flickers. The ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter's video clip from the Mars Pass revealed 3i Atlas twitching more than fixed stars, hinting at genuine flux over mere seeing errors. Those twitches might represent vapor jets flaring and fading as sun-warmed frosts on select spots slip into darkness. Or perhaps not, maybe launch scouts drifting in and out of sight, or components shifting position. This kind of endeavor seems far removed from any effort to undermine ISIS and much more aligned with intelligence agencies guiding missions. It's crucial that we tread lightly to avoid twisting unclear evidence to match our favored stories. Our minds are built to detect designs and attribute purpose to happenings that could just be coincidental or driven by basic forces. That's the root of how faiths emerge, how wild theories spread, and how we cope with a messy universe by weaving tales that add deeper significance to plain happenings. Perhaps 3 Atlas is simply persisting, shifting under physical laws, shedding material via ordinary mechanisms, spinning from old impacts or tidal pulls, and the oddities we've noted might all boil down to everyday causes we haven't pinpointed. Yet, recognizing that chance doesn't justify brushing aside the peculiarities. Progress in science comes from honoring what we observe, from rejecting vague brush-offs that fail to account for the findings. 3 Atlas shows no tail despite expectations for one. Its makeup doesn't match familiar comets. Its path lines up oddly with solar system paths. Its weight surpasses what its dimensions and glow suggest. These details demand answers, and if mundane reasons hold up, we should uncover them via thorough scrutiny instead of presuming they're there and carrying on. A vibe has relentlessly pushed for just such a method. View 3 Atlas as possibly irregular unless evidence says otherwise. Channel efforts into watching and examining. Collect as much info as possible while the chance lasts. Detractors claim he's chasing spotlight, pushing ET ideas to stay in the news. There could be some validity there. Motivations influence everyone, scientists included. Still, Lowe has staked his credibility and effort on his stance, spearheading the Galileo project to build detection setups that scan millions of items annually, probing for tech traces, embracing the chance that we're not solitary and that signs of company might already lurk in our records, if we use the proper instruments and unbiased perspectives. The Galileo Initiative embodies astroarchaeology in action, hunting for relics over radio waves and SETI. The quest for alien minds has long zeroed in on radio or light broadcasts, presuming that sophisticated societies either beam out deliberately or let their chatter escape as spottable tech marks. But Lowe contends that relics, tangible items drifting in the void, could outnumber and outlast fleeting transmissions. A craft dispatched eons back might still function or endure well past the downfall or evolution of its makers. Spotting even one validates minds out there, regardless if they're gone or out of touch now. The 3i8 class might mark that initial relic, the premier verified instance of off-world tech, or it could follow as the next, or even further along, hinging on if Oumuamua and similar prospects get deemed man-made eventually. Opposition to labeling any star-crossing body as crafted stems in part from sound scholarly caution. Bold assertions need robust proof, but also from unease over the consequences. Should 3 Atlas prove a scout, then some entity dispatched it. Some entity is aware of our spot. Some power with star-spanning capability has marked our location. That reshapes our grasp of position in the universe, our solitude, our singularity, our prospects and perils ahead. The viewing slot in December matters hugely, not only for data haul, but for checking forecasts. Distant seers predicted December as the pivot, when devices activate, when energy bursts unfold, when decisions solidify. Visionary accounts framed December as the timeline split, where humankind's course branches depending on our reaction to the unveiling. Should December pass uneventfully with 3 Atlas just sailing away like a standard icy wanderer, the forecasts flop, the visions crumble, and we can shelve the saga as a curious oddity, in the end, ordinary. Yet if December delivers surprises, deployments, beacons, shifts, signal jams, then each forecast strengthens, and each rejection appears hasty. I occupy an odd mental spot, poised amid clashing drives. My inner researcher leans toward routine causes, reluctant to summon extraterrestrials or lost protocols or mind-altering gadgets without ruling out all standard options. My doubter side notes how readily we spin grand legends from scant clues, how fiercely we crave the notion that we're exceptional, selected, on the cusp of a shift that renders yet the rewards of tackling these current difficulties seem justified. Still, the candid analyst within me simply can't overlook the recurring trends, the clustering of oddities that may not confirm anything on their own, yet together hint at something truly extraordinary taking place. What exactly would count as evidence? Which sighting would elevate 3i/Atlas from potentially engineered to likely engineered to unquestionably engineered? Lowe's proposed benchmarks come to mind. Signals via electromagnetism from the entity at wavelengths and rhythms unexplained by earthly phenomena. Maneuvers in flight that defy simple venting propulsion. Intentional steering to sustain its path. Release of subordinate probes showing acceleration beyond gravity's pull. Forms discernible at high enough detail where the shapes unmistakably signal intentional creation over random geology. Each of these alone would tip the scales sharply. None are confirmed so far, though the events of December could deliver them if we scrutinize intently. Pulling together all the aspects we've probed in this inquiry leads to a handful of insights, ranging from reassuring to profoundly disturbing. To start, 3i/Atlas stands out as truly peculiar, displaying traits that clash with our models of cosmic wanderers from beyond the stars. This isn't confirmation of man-made origins, but it insists we weigh that option rigorously against prosaic interpretations. Next, diverse outlets. From empirical data collection and psychic explorations to oracular alerts, are aligning on comparable schedules and developments. Such alignment might stem from mutual societal biases and cross-influences among reports, or it might signify various individuals detecting an identical core dynamic via varied approaches. Then, the official handling of 3i/Atlas has fallen short, plagued by sluggish information sharing, fragmented collaboration between organizations, and a reluctance to address the phenomenon with the gravity its peculiarities and potential ramifications warrant if it's anything but ordinary. This might just be typical administrative inertia, or it could signal covert orchestration beyond public view, gearing up for outcomes kept from us. Moreover, our society remains woefully unequipped for an encounter with the unknown, be it aggressive, benign, or benevolent. We have no established procedures, no cohesive mechanisms for reaction, no conceptual tools to grasp what interaction entails when the visitors could be organic, mechanical, from other dimensions, or entities defying our classifications. Finally, the dialogue surrounding it holds real weight. That so many folks are monitoring 3i/Atlas, debating its ramifications, challenging state-sanctioned accounts, and pushing for openness. This marks a shift in our cosmic involvement. No longer do we merely swallow what experts feed us about the heavens. Instead, we're diving in hands-on, harnessing collective smarts and crowdsourced sleuthing to bridge the voids official bodies ignore. This shift is fresh, it's potent, and it's a momentum that persists no matter 3I/Atlas's true nature. The month of December may illuminate plenty, though hardly all. Should 3I/Atlas perform an overt act or unveil its tech-savvy essence, the inquiries would proliferate, not fade. Who dispatched it? For what purpose? What are their aims? How should we reply? Do we even influence the unfolding events? Or are we mere observers in a saga we neither selected nor can steer? Its reappearance from solar seclusion is both a physical event, 3I/Atlas re-entering view, but also a symbolic unveiling, as concealed verities surface into light. Existence asserting itself, prepared or otherwise. My wish, shared by countless others, is disclosure absent disaster, engagement free of domination, evolution sans suffering. The hopeful visions, 3I/Atlas as envoy from a benevolent society. Exchanges of innovations that resolve our power shortages and ecological woes. Induction into a stellar network, complete with counsel for our earthly hurdles. Such paths remain viable. The evidence doesn't rule them out. But the dire alternatives loom just as feasibly. The real sorrow would lie in realizing, after the fact, that preparation was within reach, that unity, a bolder front, could have earmarked us as allies deserving safeguarding or alliance. Yet we faltered, fractured by discord, sidetracked by trivia, and wedded to rejecting notions that unsettled our worldview. 3I/Atlas serves as enigma and reflector alike. Our gaze upon it echoes our own projections. The wary discern a foe, the hopeful, a redeemer, the indifferent, a mere iceball. We're all examining identical records, the self-same body arcing through our cosmic neighborhood. The varied readings say more about our psyches than the subject itself. Humanity can aspire to the cosmos, yet instinctively arm itself against the unfamiliar. We boast vast potential for unity, but splinter under pressure. When humanity faces pressure, it's like ancient tribes under duress. We're a species teetering on the edge, either evolving into a spacefaring society or wiping ourselves out by clinging to our primal roots. The 3I/Atlas won't dictate our direction. That's on us. This thing acts as a spark, a turning point, a key piece of info. Yet the decisions belong to humanity. Our reactions to the unknown, our handling of proof that shakes our beliefs, our juggling of caution against fear, curiosity against doubt, optimism against practicality. These reveal our preparedness. Not just for the 3I/Atlas in particular, but for a destiny that spans the stars beyond our single planet. We'll encounter this challenge sooner or later. If not today, then tomorrow. If not from this visitor, then from the next. The cosmos is vast, ancient, brimming with potential. Earth can't stay cut off indefinitely. The 3I/Atlas is only the prelude. The initial clear tone in a grand orchestral piece that's echoed around us, though we're just starting to listen. As December nears and observatories pivot to the patch of sky where the 3I/Atlas will return, it hits me that the word revelation stems from the Latin revelar, to uncover, to pull aside the veil, making the concealed come into view. It's not inventing fresh realities, but exposing those that have lingered unseen. Be it a boulder or a vessel, organic or engineered, probe or relic, the 3I/Atlas is stripping away layers, compelling us to grapple with dilemmas we've long kept abstract. Are we solitary? Are we secure? Are we prepared? The responses, no matter what, hinge not on the intruder itself, but on our transformation as we uncover them. And perhaps that's the essence. Perhaps the stars don't mind if we label the 3I/Atlas a comet or a contraption, so long as the inquiry reshapes us into beings equipped to manage the truths that follow. Chapter 8, The Wow Connection. If you're new to this, go ahead and smash that like button, then subscribe. Leave a comment below. Where are you tuning in from? What's the time there? And do you believe we're solo in the cosmos, or that something's been keeping tabs on us forever? To boost this group, spread the word on X, Facebook, Reddit, or whatever chat app you use. Appreciate the support. August 15th, 1977, a day that lingered in astronomers' minds for almost 50 years. The Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University picked up an anomaly that defied logic. A tight-band radio emission at 1420, 456 megahertz, smack on the hydrogen line. The wavelength experts view as the go-to frequency for cosmic chit-chat from other worlds. Days afterward, Jerry Emmons scanned the printout, spotted the intensity surge, and jotted "wow" in red ink. That simple note christened the signal and ignited years of conjecture, arguments, and eventual letdown. It persisted for precisely 72 seconds, the complete span Big Ear could track it, before fading away, never resurfacing despite exhaustive searches. Its source pointed to the Sagittarius constellation, a star-packed zone close to our galaxy's core. For ages, it stood as SETI's most intriguing puzzle, a stellar enigma shrouded in radio pulses and unlikely odds. Skeptics chalked it up to background cosmic static or hydrogen from comets, but the latter idea got shot down completely. The emission screamed artificial source, slim bandwidth, potent strength, ideal tuning. Still, lacking repeats or verification, it stayed trapped in the land of perhaps. Jump to July 1, 2025. Chile's Atlas Survey Telescope detects an intruder zipping through our solar system at unreal velocities. An arrival from the void, from deep interstellar reaches. The third verified interstellar guest we've documented. They dubbed it 3E Atlas. As experts plot its course, a stunning link surfaces. This entity, be it icy wanderer or machine or mystery, trails its route across the stars to that very Milky Way sector, Sagittarius. The identical star cluster, the same broad bearing. Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who stirred controversy in academia for entertaining tech-based theories on odd phenomena, crunched the numbers. On August 12, 1977, just 3 days prior to the WOW detection, 3E Atlas sat roughly 600 astronomical units away, equivalent to 600 times the Earth-Sun gap. That means a light travel delay of about 3 days. The object's position then, right ascension 19 hours 40 minutes, declination 19 degrees. Stack that against the WOW signal's origin. The gap comes to around 4 degrees in right ascension and 8 degrees in declination. Ponder this, a 4 to 8 degree offset over the whole sky dome. Loeb figured the odds of 2 arbitrary sky spots matching that closely. Roughly 0.6%. The odds are slimmer than 1 in 150. Improbable, sure, but not out of the question. It's compelling enough statistically to warrant deep scrutiny instead of brushing it off lightly. Now, the fascinating part. Supposing the WOW signal came from 3 Atlas, what kind of transmitter strength would that demand? Back calculating from the observed strength of 54 to 212 Jansky across a 10 kHz bandwidth at roughly 600 astronomical units, via the inverse square law, points to an originating output between 0.5 and 2 gigawatts. For context, that's on par with a standard nuclear power plant's capacity back on our planet. Feasible for a sophisticated society, no doubt, yet it screams intentional, high-powered broadcasting. The setup that caught the WOW signal was tuned right to the hydrogen line at 1,420 megahertz, since hydrogen dominates the cosmos as the galaxy's building block. Any tech-savvy species doing radio astronomy would zero in on that wavelength. It's essentially the universe's standard greeting channel, the spot you'd aim your message if discovery was the goal. And then there's this extrasolar visitor cruising at 58 kilometers per second, heading straight from the exact Sagittarius spot where the signal popped up 48 years prior. Critics, and they're spot on here, note that Sagittarius spans a huge swath of the heavens, packed with the Milky Way's core, billions of stars, and endless possible origins. The overlap might just be coincidence. Yet those same doubters struggle to account for 3I Atlas's array of oddities, which we'll unpack as this probe unfolds. The absent comet tail, the baffling mass versus path mismatch, the sync with our solar plane, the nickel-only outflows devoid of iron. Individually, each could get waved away. Combined, though, they sketch a picture that's tough to overlook. Don't forget the timing sync-up too. Just 5 days post-WOW detection, NASA fired off Voyager 2 on August 20th, 1977, our boldest push toward the distant worlds and the void beyond. Today, Voyager 2 sails on through interstellar realms, bearing the golden record as our cosmic calling card for any minds that cross its path. Could the WOW burst have been a reply to our planet's radio spills? TV signals, radar pings, defense chatter, all beaming outward since the 1940s. The math aligns. Light-speed waves from Earth's late 1930s or early 1940s emissions would have hit 3 Atlas's presumed spot by 1977, if it's been on a steady course for eons. That sparks yet another puzzle. If 3I Atlas fired off the WOW, why a single burst? Why 72 seconds of chatter followed by quiet? Maybe it wasn't a steady stream but a targeted blip, a probe, a nod, calibrated for when our world swung into its transmission cone. The Big Ear array featured dual-feed horns scanning the sky, 3 minutes offset. A nonstop signal would have lit up both, but only one registered. That hints at either a shifting source, unlikely for cosmic bodies over minutes, or a short, aimed emission. Avi Loeb urges observatories to track 3 Atlas with radio gear as it traverses our system. So far, zilch from any dish on its signals. We're navigating sight unseen across the EM bands, fixated on optical, IR, UV, while sidelining the exact range of that first hit. It's akin to cracking a crime without glancing at the murder tool. This isn't mere scholarly itch-scratching. If 3 Atlas is beaming, if it unleashed the WOW, if it packs gigawatt firepower, we're facing engineered feats, not raw rock. Engineering points to minds. Minds suggest purpose. Purpose calls for evaluation. Loeb's devised his Loeb scale to gauge extrasolar visitors. 0 for purely organic, 10 for outright artificial and dangerously close. He pegs 3 Atlas at 4, implying a 40% shot it's engineered, not born of nature. Hardly wild conjecture. It's a data-driven call from the quirks we can measure. A 40% likelihood this isn't a rogue ice ball, but a vessel. A 40% bet the WOW wasn't cosmic static, but a purposeful ping from the intruder now slicing our stellar turf. What seals the deal is the overlap of clues, that iconic unsolved blip in the ether. This quirky wanderer from the stars. Both linked to one galactic bearing. Both tied to hydrogen waves or its elemental kin. Both hitting amid humanity's spaceward surges. The WOW struck in Voyager's heyday, our initial stab at reaching the stars. 3 Atlas shows up now, amid fresh waves of orbital ambition. Regarding advancements in space exploration, commercial space travel, and efforts to detect alien life, the mainstream scientific community's reaction so far remains subdued. NASA has classified the 3I Atlas as a comet. Tom Statler, the agency's principal expert on minor solar system bodies, remarked, "It appears comet-like, acts like one, and closely mirrors familiar comets." However, that initial judgment relied on sparse information. As more data poured in, revealing no classic tail, mass shedding without altering its path, and chemical makeup distinct from any recognized comet, confidence in that view has started to falter. Not in public statements, though. Official bodies rarely backtrack openly, yet it's evident in the probing inquiries raised, the extended observation slots granted, and the subdued admissions that this object stands out as peculiar. Enthusiast astronomers, by contrast, have been far more outspoken. Observatories globally are monitoring 3I Atlas, snapping photos, conducting spectral analyses, and examining brightness patterns. Certain shots, especially from the close pass by Mars in early October, displayed formations that defy standard comet descriptions, sharp-edged shapes, shiny patches, and rhythmic luminosity shifts hinting at a spinning, uneven body. The U.S. government shutdown at NASA, which we'll delve into more thoroughly shortly, delayed the prompt sharing of key info from Mars satellites. Once it surfaced, the visuals depicted something far removed from a typical icy clump, leaning instead toward a form with clear contours. Yet, no one's tuning into radio bands. Facilities like the Very Large Array could handle it. The Arecibo dish might have managed before its downfall. Plenty of radio dishes across the planet possess the tools, but scheduling on these instruments is invaluable, booked far ahead. Shifting priorities to scrutinize what established science deems merely a comet demands a rationale few experts dare stake their reputations on. This mirrors the bureaucratic reluctance that postponed acknowledging the inaugural interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, as truly odd. When agreement finally built that it merited intense scrutiny, the thing had dimmed and receded beyond thorough investigation. The key distinction with 3i Atlas is our lingering window. Currently, it's vanished behind the sun from Earth's viewpoint, obscured by solar glare. Still, it should come back into sight come early December 2025. Late November through December offer prime viewing windows, both due to optimal positioning and the boost in visibility from its recent closest solar approach. Should it prove a comet, that's the moment to observe if it acts predictably or uncovers traits demanding a fresh assessment. That's prime time for aiming radio arrays at it to scan for signals near the hydrogen wavelength. After all, if the WOW signal represented 3i Atlas's greeting back in 1977, and if 3i Atlas now traverses our solar system, our reply window to that outreach spans 48 years, spanning vast distances via slower-than-light travel. A craft dispatched from the WOW signal's origin star would require eons or ages to arrive here, based on range and pace. But suppose 3i Atlas was en route, nearing our system, and broadcast a beacon upon crossing that $600 threshold. Suddenly the alignment fits, the schedule aligns, and the link shifts from mere chance to solid proof. Naturally, such ideas raise chilling scenarios. If that pulse served as a cautionary probe or scout transmission, showcasing their prowess, then what's the follow-up? If it aimed for dialogue, an outreach bid, our lack of reply, our oversight in even checking key channels, conveys its own signal. Apathy or obliviousness, options that hardly reassure a civilization teetering on interstellar encounter. And if the emission was purely practical, navigational pings for gauging ranges or spotting obstacles, then humanity isn't the intended recipient. We're merely obstacles in the path. The tie to Sagittarius carries extra weight. That sky zone toward our galaxy's core boasts the densest star clusters. Greater stellar numbers mean more worlds, and thus, higher odds of life and minds evolving. SETI initiatives have prioritized scans there for ages, recognizing that societies in that quarter likely boast nearby companions, advanced comms tech, and motives to transmit. It's the universe's bustling hub, and 3i Atlas sprang from its midst. What we face could be the cosmos challenging our vigilance. Are we alert, probing the proper angles, ready to abandon cozy assumptions and grapple with uncertainty? The WOW signal tested us, and we flopped. Follow-through was weak, ongoing surveillance never materialized, and it got the short shrift it needed. 48 decades on, we're granted yet another shot, yet another oddity hailing from the identical path, presenting us with a fresh moment to either grasp its significance or brush it aside. The renowned sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke famously remarked that technology advanced enough blurs the line with sorcery. Yet he equally emphasized that the sole path to uncovering the edges of feasibility lies in stepping past them into the realm of the unattainable. Oumuamua, perched right on that divide linking the organic and the constructed, stone and vessel, icy wanderer and signaling tool, compels us to make that leap. And the famed WOW signal, that intense 72-second pulse of radio waves that enthralled a cohort of SETI pioneers, could prove to be the very call from the entity currently traversing our heavens. Not some enigma of yesteryear, but a dispatch tied to our now. Not merely a lingering puzzle, but the opening exchange in a dialogue we never knew was underway. Over the eons as our planet has orbited the sun, the nocturnal expanse has borne witness to innumerable visitors slicing through our solar domain. The vast majority slipped by unnoticed, undetected, unseen by gazes not yet refined to gaze aloft and ponder the nature of those twinkling specks. Oumuamua stands apart solely because we've arrived in time to observe it, to quantify it, to probe its implications. In a century or millennium from now, should humankind have ventured past our homeworld, presuming we endure that span, we'll reflect on this juncture as either the dawn of interstellar insight or a squandered prospect. A caution we overlooked, favoring ease over inquiry, rejection over scrutiny, since complacency felt less daunting than deep dives. I often reflect on the myriad souls across the ages who tilted their heads to the firmament, musing if those gleams were mere illuminations or if some gaze had reciprocated. The early stargazers charting planetary paths, dubbing them rovers for their defiance of the steady starfield, weaving legends to account for phenomena beyond their grasp. The scholars of the Middle Ages safeguarding wisdom amid turbulent times, transcribing tomes on the heavens even as doctrinal powers insisted our world lay at creation's core and challenging that view bordered on sacrilege. The bold thinkers of the Renaissance, who trained lenses toward the void and revealed orbiting spheres as fellow realms, distant fires as sibling stars, and a cosmos broader and more bizarre than ancient tales could encompass. Generation after generation stretched the frontiers of understanding, delving into domains prior eras deemed inconceivable, all while clashing with guardians of entrenched beliefs. Today, we teeter on a similar precipice, but the forthcoming leap dwarfs past evolutions in scope. Shifting from Earth-centered to Sun-centered views merely relocated our spot on the map. Our orb lost centrality, yet remained the hearth. Expanding to encompass the Milky Way adjusted our local bounds, acknowledging our star as one in a sea of billions. Leaping to a cosmos teeming with galaxies redefined magnitude itself. Countless clusters, each brimming with stellar multitudes. The impending transformation, should it unfold, appends our solitude. Isolation was always an illusion. The expanse teems with minds and entities we're just starting to fathom. Oumuamua could mark our inaugural verified brush with that reality, or serve as a rehearsal for the inevitable clash ahead. The evidence we've sifted, the accounts we've gathered, the irregularities we've wrestled to rationalize, they sketch an unfinished canvas. That's disquieting for intellects craving resolution, clear verdicts, a reality that's graspable and tame. Yet ambiguity rings true. We lack full insight into Oumuamua's essence, at least for the moment. Theories span from an aberrant comet bearing quirks we can eventually unpack to a crafted scout from a society eons ahead in evolution. Each pole holds viability, as does the spectrum in between. Our handling of this ambiguity reveals our character as profoundly as Oumuamua's nature unveils its own. My wish is that we opt for inquisitiveness against dread, probing against denial, openness against concealment. I anticipate December delivering insight, be it validation of mundane origins that catalogs this as a captivating celestial footnote, or affirmation of engineered intent that demands we confront the consequences we've sidestepped. Regardless, the pursuit itself counts. The network coalescing around Oumuamua spans nations, with folks pooling sightings, hashing out theories, pressing for superior intel. They embody humanity's potential when we direct our energies cosmos-ward instead of strife-ward, peering beyond ourselves rather than aiming arms at one another. Thanks for accompanying me on this probe, for lending your focus and acuity to riddles defying simple solutions. If this delve struck a chord, hit like and subscribe to fuel further explorations at the nexus of discovery and enigma. Such realms abound in the universe, eager for unbiased scrutiny unbound by favored conclusions. And as ever, this material serves educational purposes. For informational and entertainment value only, this explores various viewpoints on unclear evidence. Form your own opinions, fact-check assertions on your own, and stay wary of folks who act like they've got all the answers amid the unknowns. The room's dimming as I wrap up this piece. Fitting symbol for wrapping thoughts on things shrouded in shadow. Yet night isn't emptiness. It's packed with wonders we just haven't figured out how to spot. Each glimmer beckons us to peer deeper, pose sharper inquiries, and embrace the idea that the cosmos doesn't owe us answers, though it dangles infinite chances to uncover them if we dare to pursue. Whatever 3 Atlas turns out to be, it handed us that chance. If we grabbed it or watched it slip by, time will tell before long. Sleep well, no matter your spot on the map. And here's hoping the heavens stay crisp come December when 3i Atlas swings back into sight, hauling along its secrets or revelations. Unmoved by how we spin the tale, yet open to our scrutiny. A wanderer from the stars that turned into a reflection of our dreams and dreads. Our wonder and wariness. Our preparedness, or the opposite, for a universe that's lingered here forever, biding time until we're mature enough to notice. Right this instant. While these lines sink in, something zipping along at 210,000 kilometers per hour lurks, shielded by our sun. Come 24 hours from now, on October 29, 2025, 3I Atlas hits perihelion, its nearest brush with our star, and the fallout might upend our understanding completely. Harvard's Avi Loeb has bumped up his odds to 40% that this isn't some ordinary rock. Those Mars snapshots NASA's holding back amid the shutdown. The sync up with the 1977 WOW signal, which carries just a 6% shot at pure fluke. That 33 billion ton bulk that defies logic. Pay close attention, since in the blink of an eye, this cosmic drifter will either splinter like past comets or pull off a move that backs up the hush theory some experts have murmured but hesitated to voice. It might unleash drones, self-copying ones at that. And the flight paths indicate that from November 21st through December 5th, a piece could swing toward our planet. Drop a note below, where you're tuning in from, the hour there, and if you reckon 3I Atlas will crumble tomorrow or unveil a bigger surprise. If cosmic enigmas hook you, hit like, subscribe, spread the word on X, Facebook, Reddit, or messaging apps. Appreciate your steady support. Chapter 1. The Hush Preceding the Gale. An astonishing event unfolds at this very moment with 3I Atlas, and the quiet from space outfits rings loud. As you and I hold out for clarity, this 7-meter-wide entity presses on through our solar system's core at velocities that dwarf our quickest spacecraft. What sets today apart from all the days since spotting it on July 1st? The dawn brings the big reveal. Perihelion's approach that settles the riddle tormenting stargazers' sleep. Comet or total anomaly? The European Space Agency dropped Mars orbiter shots from October 3rd, sparking online frenzy. They label it a blurry speck. But tweaks by freelance analysts uncover a stretched, nearly tube-like form unlike any comet on record. Unprocessed feeds from NASA's Perseverance rover paint an odder picture. Hobbyists have layered these pics, 20 at a pop, and spotted what astrophotographer Simeon Schmaus calls a subtle blur right where 3I Atlas ought to loom in Mars' atmosphere. That blur hints at form implying this isn't mere frozen grit and stone. Onto the schedule here. The U.S. government closure kicked off right as 3 Atlas neared Mars' closest. NASA's outreach lines fell silent. Crisp views from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise instrument, capable of 30 centimeters per pixel detail on such a visitor, sit sealed in red tape. Folks dub it chance. Some mutter about curbing intel, but backyard sky watchers won't pause for clearance. A creator called Dobsonian Power snagged an eye-opener via Solar Scope, following 3I Atlas toward the sun. His footage highlights odd contours, traits alien to everyday comets. Soon after, views topped hundreds of thousands, with discussions exploding in wild guesses. Pro-astronomers keep mum, tied to agency rules, and vetting that crawls while this thing blazes at 61 kilometers per second. The Swift telescope picked up hydroxyl gas traces, the telltale sign of water. The discovery ought to have brought comfort. Evidence showed that 3I Atlas was shedding water just like a typical comet. Though, of course, it was anything but ordinary. This thing was vaporizing 40 kilograms of water every second, even as it lingered almost 3 times farther from the sun than our planet, in a cosmic zone where water ice typically stays locked in place. Dennis Boditz of Oren University likened it to deciphering a message from a distant planetary realm. Yet, not even he could account for such watery behavior at this outrageous range. Allow me to sketch the scenario we're facing. Picture an entity possibly 7 billion years old, predating our sun, our entire solar system, and harboring chemical traces from an entirely alien star-forming zone. Research by Matthew Hopkins and colleagues indicates that 3I Atlas originated in the Milky Way's thick disk phase, a frenzy of stellar births that wrapped up billions of years prior to Earth's formation. This goes beyond a mere traveler from another star. It's a dispatch from a bygone chapter in the galaxy's past. The figures alone reveal a puzzle that refuses to balance. Richard Clue, collaborating with Avi Loeb and Peter V. ran computations revealing that 3I Atlas weighs at minimum 33 billion tons. For context, that's 3 to 5 orders of magnitude heavier than the prior 2 interstellar intruders, Oumuamua and Borisov. By the odds, we'd expect to spot 100,000 items Oumuamua-sized before stumbling on a behemoth like 3I Atlas. Still, it's the third confirmed interstellar body we've identified, towering over fellow space drifters. Its path deepens the enigma further. 3I Atlas enters our solar system via a retrograde trajectory, counter to the flow of our planets. With an orbital tilt of 175 degrees, it's basically hurtling inverted and reversed through our stellar turf. Yet, the oddity escalates. Despite that bizarre entry vector, its route hugs our ecliptic plane to within 5 degrees. The odds of such a fluke? Just 0.2%. Factor in its brush-bys with Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, and the joint likelihood plummets to 0.00005%. Come tomorrow, as 3I Atlas arcs nearest the Sun at 203 million kilometers. It'll face heat loads unseen in eons, maybe millions of years. Sunlight will dump gigawatts of energy onto its exterior. Should this be a genuine comet, we'd anticipate dazzling vapor jets, or outright shattering as icy volatiles burst into gas. The JUICE probe will monitor it, alongside Earthbound scopes, once it clears the solar glare come November. Chapter 2. The WoW Link. Suppose 3I Atlas holds together? What if, as Avi proposes with his 30 to 40% odds, it endures thanks to deliberate engineering? The fallout echoes across history in ways that unsettle even veteran stargazers. Precisely 48 years back, an event unfolded that could tie into today's spectacle. August 15, 1977. Jerry Emmon, stationed at Ohio State University, sifted big ear radio telescope readings when he spotted an anomaly prompting him to scrawl one word in red ink, a term that's haunted science for generations. Wow. The burst endured 72 seconds, originating in Sagittarius, and eluded every follow-up search. It stood as the prime tease for alien tech ever captured. Until recently, its origin remained a blank. Now, 3I Atlas enters the frame with math that raises goosebumps. Low backtrack the body's course, factoring in gravity tugs and the absence of extra thrust that renders this visitor so oddly hefty. On August 12, 1977, just 3 days prior to the WoW detection, 3I Atlas sat roughly $600 from us. Travel time for light over that span, 3 days. The angle between its then location and the WoW source deviates by a mere 4 degrees in right ascension and 8 degrees in declination. Chance of that match? A slim 0.06%. Now weigh the energy demands for 3I Atlas to beam the WoW pulse from $600 and hit the big ear sensitivity. It'd require a broadcaster pumping 0.5 to 2 gigawatts, akin to a nuclear plant, the sort suited for a star-hopping craft built to endure eons in the void. Lowe points out that a nuclear drive for 3I Atlas would clarify various quirks, like dust ejections that defy standard comet evaporation. The WoW emission itself bears markers that age for almost 50 years. The mysterious WoW signal has left researchers scratching their heads. It popped up at 1,420 megahertz, strikingly near the hydrogen line wavelength that experts have theorized extraterrestrial societies could employ for messaging, given hydrogen's dominance across the cosmos. This emission was tightly focused on one frequency, unlike the broad scatter of most cosmic occurrences. Its intensity waxed and waned in a way that matched the big ear telescope scanning over a far-off emitter. All indicators pointed towards something engineered, yet its origin stayed elusive. That eerie green hue spotted in processed visuals of Oumuamua adds yet another layer to this interstellar riddle. Spectral breakdowns show it's not the usual diatomic carbon tint seen in most comets. Rather, it's driven by nickel lines, missing the iron traces common in ordinary celestial debris. Certain scientists point out that this profile echoes man-made nickel compounds far more than ancient stuff from our solar neighborhood. Could this hint at deliberate fabrication, or is it just an odd makeup from some distant star system? Consider the bigger picture we're dealing with, a relic predating our sun's birth, cruising the void between stars for countless ages, perhaps beaming out pulses at precise moments. The WoW signal's 72-second span wasn't likely chance. Maybe it was a deliberate info burst, a marker, or a coded interval meant to draw eyes. Failing to pick it up since doesn't imply it went silent. Perhaps Oumuamua spins, its broadcaster sweeping the galaxy like a beacon that just grazed our spot during that brief scan. The engineering demands boggle the mind. Should Oumuamua have been pulsing on and off for eons, it'd require not only energy but advanced setups for stability, heat control, and shielding gear from radiation blasts. Its seemingly intact form after billions of years drifting hints at either extraordinary resilience or design tougher than anything we can build. Fresh digs into the Arecibo Observatory's old records have turned up more oddities possibly linked to Oumuamua. The Arecibo WOW initiative, sifting through years of baffling blips, spotted faint echoes near the classic WOW frequency. None as bold, though. These ping schedules and angles lack a clear sequence. Yet if Oumuamua has been navigating via stellar gravity boosts over millennia, its broadcast would look scattered from our vantage. Its recent actions bolster the idea of active signaling. While standard comets start venting near the Sun, Oumuamua acted strangely while still outside Jupiter's path. The Swift telescope caught water traces at ranges where evaporation shouldn't occur without internal warmth. A nuclear reactor could account for that, as could mechanisms gearing up for inter-system passage. Hubble's captured anti-tail, that leading spray of stuff, might stem from thrusters, not mere sunlight pushback. Radio experts globally are rushing to train antennas on Oumuamua as it nears closest solar approach. Solar interference hampers listens, though. The prime viewing slot hits in November, post-solar alignment. Should Oumuamua broadcast anew, firing off another WOW-like burst while arcing by our star, detectors stand poised. The Allen Telescope Array, Very Large Array, and scores of other facilities have synced watch times. Hobbyists wielding software-defined receivers are pitching in too. Chapter 3. The Mothership Theory. The creepiest angle on Oumuamua isn't its nature, but its potential next moves. At perihelion, shielded from us by solar brightness, it'd sit ideally for what Loeb terms a backward solar orbit flip. Such a gravity whip could slow it down and dispatch mini-craft into stable paths around our sun. We'd miss the action entirely. Intervention would be impossible anyway. And when Oumuamua reappears from the sun's shadow come November, any launch scouts would already be inbound. The dynamics of dropping payloads from a backward-moving carrier are sleek yet chilling. Since Oumuamua travels against our world's directions, offspring flung with speeds countering the parent's path, would their velocities compared to the sun could be significantly lowered. This would allow them to settle into steady paths across the inner solar system using very little fuel. The backward trajectory isn't a drawback at all. In fact, it's an ideal method for planting devices across various planetary setups all at once. Think about the potential of self-duplicating explorers, something that 3i Atlas might actually be showcasing. These units wouldn't have to be massive, maybe just smartphone-sized, with essential detectors, messaging gear, and above all, the capacity to gather resources and produce duplicates. In his most recent online entry, Lowe describes how such devices might disperse across our solar system akin to dandelion fluff. Everyone able to generate an endless array of offspring. In mere years, rather than ages. They could form a thorough monitoring setup all over our stellar surroundings. The schedule for possible device launches matches up eerily with the alignments of planets. Mars came as close as 29 million kilometers to 3i Atlas on October 3rd. Earth will make its nearest pass on December 19th at 1.8 astronomical units. Jupiter's moment arrives in March 2026. Every such meeting offers a chance to release explorers, with the planet's gravitational pull serving as a trap. The reverse path ensures these meetings occur more swiftly than usual, leaving any counteraction with far less preparation time. How might these explorers appear? Given the odd bulk of 3i Atlas, we're confronting tech that surpasses anything humans have achieved. The primary vessel by itself weighs 33 billion tons, implying its builders command energies and substances on levels we can hardly fathom. Any offspring it deploys would probably match that sophistication, perhaps featuring innovations we've yet to dream up. They could evade our scanners entirely, functioning in wavelength ranges we ignore, or employing cloaking that blends them seamlessly with ordinary cosmic junk. An anonymous European stargazer on 4chan floated an even wilder idea. Suppose 3i Atlas isn't made of standard stuff? The notion of a dark matter envelope feels straight out of a novel, yet it accounts for various oddities. The huge weight paired with faint glow, the peculiar shine patterns, the apparent creation of power instead of just bouncing back solar rays. Though most experts brush this off as guesswork, 3I Atlas acts nothing like the natural bodies we've documented. Earthbound watches have uncovered extra quirks that bolster the central vessel idea. The fluctuations in its shine don't match what you'd expect from a spinning, bumpy comet core. Rather, they display rhythms hinting at man-made features or operating mechanisms. Certain hobbyist sky watchers note quick bursts of illumination unrelated to standard comet flares. Could these be reflections off solar arrays, signaling beams, or bursts from maneuvering engines? Lacking superior info, we're left to wonder. The idea of atomic drive merits real attention. Should 3I Atlas house a fission or fusion power source, it could justify the ongoing steam output at ranges from the sun that defy logic. It might fuel the supposed WOW signal broadcast. It could power adjustments to hold the craft on its oddly exact route. Crucially, it would supply the juice to dispatch and sustain a swarm of small explorers. The nickel-heavy outflows, absent iron counterparts, might signal containment barriers or byproduct emissions from a reactor, not mere mineral traces. Our own space ambitions provide backing for the Central Vessel Explorer model. The breakthrough Starshot initiative plans to hurl thousands of minuscule sensors and broadcasters toward nearby stars, each a handful of grams, pushed by photon sails. Research like Daedalus and Icarus delved into fusion-driven ships for scattering probes at destination worlds. What we're pondering for 3I Atlas mirrors precisely what we'd attempt ourselves for deep space ventures, given the means. The key variance is that another civilization could have wielded such prowess Ian's back. The duplicating feature flips the risk evaluation on its head. Classic SETI views pictured extraterrestrial outreach via broadcasts or lone visiting craft. Yet duplicating explorers rewrite the rules. Should even a single one take root in our solar system, it might mine asteroids for parts to forge replicas. Those replicas spawn further ones. In just decades, our planet might find itself encircled by millions of foreign watchers. Every unit gathering intel, perhaps gearing up for unknowns beyond our grasp. The official quiet from authorities gains a sharper edge under this lens. What if NASA or the ESA picked up signs that this thing had released probes? Would they go public right away? Or would it trigger secret consultations, emergency planning sessions, and efforts to keep the masses calm as they puzzle over countermeasures? The ongoing U.S. federal shutdown offers ideal camouflage for holding back details while leaders huddle in private to sort things out. This isn't necessarily some bureaucratic media silence, more like a calculated lockdown on info as officials grapple with a crisis unlike any before. Chapter 4. The Timeless Traveler. 7 billion years. Pause and let that figure really hit you. Back when 3I Atlas set off on its path, the cosmos was only about half as old as it is now. Our sun hadn't taken shape yet. The particles that later clumped into Earth were scattered across vast nebulae. This entity has wandered the void since long before our Milky Way spiral branch had fully coalesced. And today, it's arrived, harboring enigmas from a cosmic era beyond our wildest grasp. Researchers pinned down this immense age through various converging clues. Matthew Hopkins and colleagues examined the object's path and projected it against simulations of the galaxy's development. 3I Atlas seems to hail from the Milky Way's thick disk, a layer born amid a frenzy of star birth roughly 9 to 13 billion years in the past. Spectroscopic readings back this up, revealing isotope proportions that starkly diverge from those in our solar neighborhood. How does eons of hurtling between stars alter such a body? Ordinary comets would erode under relentless cosmic radiation, their frozen gases slowly vaporizing from the subtle warmth of nearby suns. That 3I Atlas retains water frost and displays ongoing processes points to either extraordinary endurance or ongoing upkeep. Should it prove engineered, this implies construction built to outlast entire planets. Mechanisms running since prior to the rise of complex life here on Earth. Innovations that weathered the rise and fall of countless star clusters. The mystery of its intact state grows when factoring in the perils of deep space. Over 7 billion years, 3I Atlas likely crossed numerous supernova blasts. It would have braved fierce radiation zones around giant stars, High-velocity impacts with cosmic dust particles could have scoured any outer layers. Still, it shows up whole and operational, shielded by forces beyond simple luck. Some theories propose 3I Atlas lingered in hibernation for much of its voyage. Core functions powered down to save energy and limit wear. Reactivation might have kicked in only upon nearing our sun, its long-dormant tech humming back online after ages of quiet. That accounts for its odd behaviors detected far outside Jupiter's reach. Not a mere thaw from sunlight, it was coming alive. The fallout for the study of life in space is staggering. Even if 3I Atlas is a natural wanderer, it could tote organic compounds from distant suns, perhaps harboring tiny life forms frozen in its core. Experts point out that such drifters might serve as carriers in panspermia, ferrying biology across the stars. Yet if it's crafted, this hints at minds that arose in our galaxy billions of years ahead of Earth's debut. Societies ancient when our world was still unborn. The Milky Way 7 billion years back differed vastly from its current form. Stars popped up faster. Explosions from dying giants were commonplace. Metallicity, the share of atoms beyond basic hydrogen and helium, remained scarce. Societies from that era would confront unique hurdles and prospects compared to ours. They could have forged tools suited to that raw, dynamic setting. Tools that strike us as indestructibly tough. Just think about plotting such a course. In 7 billion years, the galaxy has spun over 25 full turns. Suns have shifted, sparked into being, and flickered out. The stellar map 3I Atlas left behind is gone forever, and yet it reached our system with accuracy to brush past several worlds. Pure accident feels less and less plausible. The path screams intention, a route plotted to cross ours precisely now, in this slice of universal time. Its roots in the thick disk spark intriguing puzzles about any builders behind it. Stars there skew old, scarce and heavy elements, and trace wide, oval paths around the core. Worlds orbiting them would boast altered elemental mixes versus Earth's. Biology taking hold there could evolve along utterly alien chemical routes. SI composed of silicon foundations instead of carbon frameworks, with energy systems fueled by radiant sources rather than chemical reactions. Varieties of sentience that we could overlook entirely as mere existence. The backward path of 3 Atlas's orbit offers yet another hint at its primordial beginnings. Back in the galaxy's formative era, collisions between stars happened far more frequently. Tugs from gravity could readily reverse a body's path through space. Something that strikes us as irregular. A reverse course matching our plane of the ecliptic may have been intentionally selected eons ago, guided by precise forecasts of our sun's future position. Any creators behind it, assuming they were real, would have required impeccable projections of star movements spanning vast epochs. In this light, the discovery of frozen water grows all the more captivating. H2O emerged soon after the cosmos took shape. Yet the unique isotopic markers in 3 Atlas's outflows diverge from those in our local system. The deuterium-hydrogen balance, the ratios of oxygen variance, they're all subtly mismatched. This moisture originated near another sun, shaped by unique circumstances. It's extraterrestrial liquid, bearing the molecular imprint of its origin across 7 billion years of interstellar travel. Fresh simulations on computers indicate that 3 Atlas likely swung near numerous stellar clusters over its voyage. Every brush would have nudged its route a bit. A vast game of stellar billiards unfolding across immense timescales. Should this entity be gathering intel, it could harbor logs of innumerable distant realms. Readings from worlds forever out of our reach. Glimpses of societies that bloomed and crumbled long before our planet formed. 3 Atlas might function as a repository, a vault of cosmic chronicles inscribed in formats beyond our current grasp. Chapter 5. The revelation on Mars. The date of October 3, 2025, stands out as the moment when the world shifted, or when we nearly uncovered the reality, only for it to get concealed from view. During 3 Atlas's skim within 29 million kilometers of Mars, human efforts had deployed 7 distinct probes to witness this pivotal event. The sites they captured, or rather the details they're withholding, have sparked a torrent of theories that official quiet can't suppress. The European Space Agency shared just a single photo from their ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter after a full week of multi-tool monitoring. That photo depicts, in their words, a hazy pale speck amid the void. However, third-party scrutiny of that lone shot uncovers elements the ESA has ignored. Boosted processing highlights that the speck lacks roundness. It's stretched out, organized around a core body with protruding elements that fail to resemble any known comet forms in our records. NASA's handling feels even stranger. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter boasts the high-rise camera, our finest optics dispatched to an alien world. It ought to have snapped 3 Atlas at a crisp 30 kilometers per pixel scale, sufficient for spotting terrain traits, build specifics, or signs of engineered design. Such shots were taken and beamed back to us. Yet they're sealed away amid the administration's closure, out of reach for civilians and many experts alike. What we've glimpsed stems from an unlikely outlet. Unedited feeds from the Perseverance rover, still piping data autonomously amid the blackout, reveal something remarkable. Simeon Schmaus, the sky photographer who initially spotted 3 Atlas in those feeds, has since refined scores of shots. The thing shows up in 12 varied sequences, each with minor shifts aligning to its projected path, but its form is off, excessively slender, rigidly linear, unnaturally balanced for anything organic. The backyard stargazing crowd has stepped up to bridge the knowledge gap. Drawing on open trajectory info, they've pinpointed the aim of every Mars probe's gear during the close approach. China's Tianwen, one satellite sat ideally aligned. The UAE's Hope craft enjoyed a prime vantage. India's Mars orbiter mission, operational well beyond expectations, should have nabbed key insights too. Still, no outfit has dropped photos or comments on 3 Atlas. The hush feels orchestrated, intentional, and overwhelming. At the same time, whispers of disclosures are emerging on secure chat apps and faceless forums. An individual purporting to be a JPL subcontractor shared what they claim are raw high-res captures, only for their profile to vanish shortly after. If authentic, those visuals depict something beyond standard interpretations. It seems divided into clear segments, perhaps linked units joined by a spine-like structure. There are balanced extensions that might serve as photovoltaic arrays, heat vents, or detection gear. The clarity isn't sharp enough for confirmation, but the potential fallout is profound. The released spectral readings only deepen the inquiries. It raises far more questions than it resolves. The Mars Express probe picked up odd absorption features that fail to align with standard comet outgassings. Meanwhile, the Nomad instrument aboard ESA's ExoMars mission picked up hints of intricate organic compounds, yet lacking the straightforward chains typical of ancient icy remnants. Rather, the patterns point to refined substances, perhaps even polymeric structures. Researchers poring over this information have stayed notably cautious in their assessments, opting for measured phrasing that sidesteps firm judgments. What elevates the Mars flyby to special importance is this. 3 Atlas neared the Crimson World along a path that felt intentionally optimized for peak scrutiny. It traversed the paths of several orbiting probes, staying in sight of diverse sensors for several days. If the goal was to invite examination while being observed, this would be the ideal method. On the flip side, if the intent was a slow unveiling, metering out details bit by bit, one might arrange for the finest views to occur precisely when leading space organizations faced communication blackouts. The odd maneuvers as 3 Atlas neared Mars deepened the enigma further. The object displayed what looked like minor trajectory tweaks, slight shifts that positioned it squarely within the viewing fields of various probes. These alterations were faint, just on the edge of detection, yet evident in the orbital records. Conventional comets don't perform such adjustments. They adhere to straight-line paths, influenced solely by gravity and occasional gas jets. 3 Atlas operated differently. Notably, private space ventures have stayed utterly quiet on the matter. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and similar entities equipped for distant tracking have offered no commentary on 3 Atlas. Those in the know whisper of secret gatherings, binding NDAs, and likely liaisons with official bodies. The private sector appears privy to details withheld from the masses, and they're keeping it under wraps. Online forums are buzzing with speculations on the true sights from the Mars probes. The hashtag 3AtlasTruth has dominated worldwide trends for 3 full days. Hobbyists have spotted irregular goings-on at farspace relay sites, atypical plane traffic near defense firms, and urgent gatherings of agency oversight panels. This all hints at a unified effort to handle data too delicate for swift disclosure. The most peculiar account stems from a ham radio enthusiast in Australia who reported intercepting coded signals emanating from Mars' vicinity amid the close pass. The emissions occupied a band set aside for interstellar probes, but deviated from recognized vehicle formats. The listener captured a few minutes' worth until the broadcast suddenly halted. Scrutiny of the audio reveals patterned data bursts with patterns implying deliberate design. Still, absent decoding tools or background, the message stays elusive. Chapter 6. The compositional puzzle, the liquid water gushing from 3 Atlas defies logic. Not so far from the sun. Not in such volumes. Not bearing those precise molecular markers. A steady 40 kilograms per second, jetting into the void like a high-pressure stream as the entity glides through zones where frozen water ought to remain as still as rock. Observations from the Swift telescope of hydroxyl radicals provided our initial molecular profile of this intruder, and the insights disrupt foundational ideas about comet behavior. In the vacuum, water molecules fragment into hydroxyl radicals that emit in the UV spectrum, a phenomenon we've witnessed in numerous comets, though never to this degree. 3 Atlas generated these indicators while almost 3 AU from the sun, in icy expanses where even CO2 barely vaporizes. The power fueling this water release must originate from an unknown source, as sunlight by itself falls short. Isotopic compositions weave an even more bizarre tale. The deuterium to hydrogen proportion in 3 Atlas's water diverges from every known source in our system. It mismatches terrestrial seas, European or Ganymedean ices, or comet remnants. This points to extraterrestrial origins, condensed near another sun under alien circumstances eons past. Yet the real head-scratcher is their uniformity, flawlessly steady, as though refined, cleansed, and normalized beyond natural whims. Zushi Xing's group at Oran University theorizes the water could stem from suspended ice particles in the surrounding haze, not the core body. Freed from the primary mass, these particles would evaporate more readily thanks to their vast exposed surfaces. But this idea sparks fresh dilemmas. What mechanism detached the particles from the nucleus? Why hasn't this shown up in other comets at comparable ranges? And why do it seems the raindrops in this phenomenon maintain consistent dimensions, as though produced in a factory instead of fracturing haphazardly? This nickel enigma grows more intricate with every new finding. Spectral examinations reveal prominent nickel signals absent the iron traces typical of natural separation processes. The proportion of nickel to iron deviates enormously, by factors of thousands. A few scientists have discreetly pointed out that this profile aligns more closely with select man-made metals than with ancient solar system remnants. Specifically, nickel blends crafted for harsh conditions, capable of enduring eons in vacuum without degradation. The identification of carbon dioxide via Sphere X introduced yet another intriguing element. Those CO2 releases exhibit odd isotopic buildup of carbon-13, the denser form uncommon in our local system. Such a pattern might stem from organic activity, refining processes, or genesis in a star system with altered atomic formation paths. Any of these scenarios holds deep consequences for what 3I Atlas truly is. Consider the reactions needed to generate water output at such volumes over weeks or months. Assuming the hydroxyl signals hold true and various separate studies verify them, 3I Atlas would require either enormous stores of readily vaporizing frost or a core energy mechanism fueling the activity. The idea of a nuclear power unit starts to feel more plausible once you factor in the power demands involved. The organic compounds spotted but not yet detailed fully form a fresh riddle. The groups poring over the information have stayed notably reserved on details, alluding just to intricate sequences and surprising configurations. Leaked readings hint at amino acids present, but not the basic types such as glycine detected in prior comets. These seem more elaborate, perhaps displaying chirality, the asymmetric trait linked to life-based reactions. Information from gas phase separation tests by a Mars satellite, which appeared momentarily on an open database before vanishing, indicated signals matching extended-chain fuels, unlike the chaotic blend anticipated from ancient frost. Instead, targeted substances with evenly spaced mass patterns, suggesting deliberate chemical synthesis for defined roles. The makeup of the ejected particles layers on further intrigue. In contrast to standard comets that expel silicate grains akin to those from asteroids, 3I Atlas's debris displays atypical light absorption traits, bands mismatched to familiar rocks, glowing lines indicating rare substances. Certain experts have whispered in private about fabricated specs designed at the atomic scale for traits beyond our grasp. Heat readings from far-infrared scans also defy predictions. 3 Atlas registers higher temperatures than anticipated given its solar distance. The difference isn't extreme, but sufficient to imply self-generated warmth. Moreover, the heat spread over the body lacks evenness. Persistent warm zones appear in successive scans, fixed against the spin. Everyday comets lack fixed hot areas. Devices with energy cores exhibit them. The shifts in chemistry as 3I Atlas nears the Sun should prove revealing. Conventional comets display foreseeable alterations in their outflows as varied frosts hit vaporization points. Water, CO2, CO, methane, each activates at set solar ranges. Should 3I Atlas adhere to this sequence, it bolsters the organic origin theory. Yet if anomalies persist, if reactions defy heat-based forecasts, then we confront an altogether different entity. Efforts in labs to mimic 3I Atlas's light signatures have stumbled time and again. No blend of recognized frosts and rocks yields the precise output profiles observed. Investigators have experimented with unusual mixes, early universe setups, and even mimicked cosmic radiation effects. None align exactly. It's almost like 3 Atlas consists of substances absent from our solar system, or at least absent in the arrangements we detect. Chapter 7. The orbital foretelling the route 3I Atlas has followed across our system feels less like sheer luck and more like a meticulously plotted course. Each computation, likelihood evaluation, and data crunch yields the identical unsettling result. This path is excessively precise, ideally synced with world alignments, finely tuned for slingshot maneuvers to occur spontaneously. The probabilities rival, or surpass, those of a lottery jackpot. Start with the entry angle. 3 Atlas pierced our system along a backward path slanted at 175 degrees, basically inverted and reversed against our world's flow. Such a setup ought to reduce close planetary brushes, not enhance them. Nevertheless, its course has been threaded its way across our solar system akin to a needle-piercing interstellar fabric, skimming near Mars, drawing close to Venus, and aiming toward Jupiter, all while holding an orientation to Earth's orbital plane with just a 0.2% chance of happening by random chance. Calculations by Richard Chloe uncovered an even more alarming detail. The arrival timing of 3-2 Atlas lined up with planetary placements in a manner that defies any statistical rationale. Mars sat in the ideal spot for the October 3rd pass. Earth will occupy the prime location during the December rendezvous. Jupiter is next up in March. The overall odds of these alignments arising spontaneously stand at 0.005%. That's equivalent to 5 chances in a million. You'd have better luck tossing a coin and landing heads 17 consecutive times. Now add in the absence of non-gravitational acceleration. Even with intense outgassing and shedding 40 kilograms of water every second, 3-2 Atlas has strayed from its predicted trajectory by no more than 0.028 arcsec. This points to either an immense mass that renders the thrust from vaporizing gases negligible or some form of active course correction to offset deviations. Both possibilities upend our grasp of the phenomenon. The ecliptic alignment grows more questionable under galactic spatial considerations. Our planet's orbital plane tilts at a 60 degrees angle relative to the galactic disk, the typical source for interstellar visitors. For 3-2 Atlas to show up synced within 5 degrees of our ecliptic after possibly traversing billions of years demands either phenomenal fortune or purposeful steering. Lowe's computations indicated that items from the galactic disk ought to approach from haphazard angles. 3-2 Atlas, however, didn't overlook the perks of a retrograde entry into our system. A probe arriving in reverse direction secures key strategic edges. Planetary flybys occur at elevated speeds, complicating any pursuit. The counterdirectional travel simplifies launching subprobes that must brake to slip into orbits around worlds. The incoming trajectory also yields superior viewing setups for sequentially examining several planets. This setup mirrors the blueprint for an effective scouting operation across a full star system. With a perihelion of 1.36 astronomical units, 3.2 Atlas occupies the sweet spot for a solar orbit adjustment. Any nearer, and solar heat could harm delicate gear. Any farther, and the gravity boost loses punch. This exact spacing delivers the greatest speed shift with the least heat exposure, perfect for either breaking free from the sun's pull or dispatching items toward the inner planets. The fine-tuning is impossible to dismiss. Path breakdowns expose subtle tweaks that defy expectation. Minor shifts in speed and heading popped up at precise intervals during its route. These fine adjustments, just visible in the observation logs, ensured 3.2 Atlas stayed locked in viewing slots and synced with future planetary meets. Conventional physics can't account for these nudges. Gas emissions are far too erratic. Gravitational tugs are thoroughly mapped out. An unseen factor is at play. The upcoming route promises further mysteries. Following its exit from solar conjunction in November, 3.2 Atlas will traverse a zone ripe with gravitational slingshot opportunities toward Earth, Venus, or Mercury. The November 21st to December 5th interval that Low pinpointed isn't random. It aligns the object's stance against Earth to enable the best paths for any released probes. A mere few meters per second of thrust at the optimal instant could propel a small scout straight toward our world. Tracing the inbound path backward uncovers yet another oddity. The route 3.2 Atlas followed to enter our system seems to involve near misses with at least 3 other stellar setups over the last million years. Each brush would have supplied gravity boosts reshaping its heading. The total impact from these interactions should have scattered its entry angle into our system chaotically, yet it entered with pinpoint accuracy. This hints at either staggering happenstance or guided control throughout the long-haul interstellar trip. The March 2026 Jupiter flyby offers the most compelling scenario. During closest approach, 3.2 Atlas will enter the detection range of the Juno probe sensors. More critically, Jupiter's vast gravitational field could profoundly reshape the object's course. Based on the specific incoming setup, 3.2 Atlas might acquire sufficient speed to fully depart the solar system, or it could shed enough to get trapped in our sun's orbit. Which result unfolds may not hinge on luck alone. Experts in orbital dynamics have executed thousands of simulations seeking organic causes for 3.2 Atlas's trajectory. They've tested diverse starting locations, assorted timelines, and numerous interaction cases. Not one replicated the real path with plausible odds. The top-matching scenarios demand presuming 3, the interstellar object known as Atlas seems to have emerged from a precise location in space at an exact moment, carrying a particular speed that resembles a deliberate launch more than a spontaneous expulsion. Chapter 8. The Battle for Information. An extraordinary shift is underway in the typically open arena of astronomical research. Details concerning 3 Atlas are under strict control, selective release, and potential censorship, hinting at revelations considered far too delicate for widespread disclosure. These trends align too neatly among various organizations, nations, and bodies to dismiss as mere chance. We are observing what could be the most extraordinary chain of equipment malfunctions and administrative holdups in the annals of space exploration, or perhaps a deliberate strategy to regulate details about this cosmic intruder from beyond our solar system. The period of quietude kicks off with China's Tianwen-1 probe. Even though it was ideally situated to scrutinize 3 Atlas amid the Mars Pass, the China National Space Administration has issued 0 updates. No photos, no announcements, not even a nod to any attempted sightings. This stands in stark contrast to an outfit that usually touts every milestone in their Mars efforts through broad press blitzes. The hush is overwhelming and utterly uncharacteristic. Russia's role in the XMR project features advanced spectrometers primed to collect in-depth material breakdowns. The Russian Academy of Sciences, which routinely broadcasts breakthroughs to bolster its reputation, has stayed mum. Solo scientists who buzzed about 3 Atlas back in July and August have fallen silent. Their online profiles lie inactive, and their project sites remain unchanged. It feels as though the whole Russian astronomical sector has unanimously resolved that this extraterrestrial entity merits no further mention. Japan's JAXA operates tracking gear aboard the International Space Station capable of following 3 Atlas. They have offered no comment. The Indian Space Research Organization, with its active Mars orbiters still operational, upholds total discretion. The European Southern Observatory, leveraging its formidable land-based scopes in Chile, has displayed rare restraint regarding subsequent scans. This behavior spans all prominent spacefaring countries and key observatories. Off-the-record exchanges among experts reveal a troubling scenario. Coded dispatches exposed via WikiLeaks imply that initial results on 3I Atlas were so bizarre that several aerospace bodies consented to a self-imposed blackout pending deeper review. The recurring term is awaiting confirmation of startling assertions. The Carl Sagan principle, that bold statements demand robust proof, is cited to rationalize this exceptional clampdown on data. Scholarly draft archives reveal their narrative too. From October 3rd onward, no manuscript on 3I Atlas has surfaced on AR-14, the go-to hub for astrophysics drafts. This holds true even as numerous groups pursued viewings. Probability calculations indicate such quietude defies everyday norms. By contrast, the prior interstellar visitor Borisov sparked more than 30 drafts within its initial observation month. 3IA Atlas has yielded none in the days after the Mars close approach. Requests under the Freedom of Information Act to NASA have drawn atypical replies. Rather than standard rejections or limited disclosures, the organization has cited obscure national security waivers. Asserting that comet sightings might affect security has sparked skepticism and legal challenges. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has submitted urgent appeals for openness, contending that citizens deserve insight into possible alien encounters. At the same time, efforts to spread false narratives have ramped up. Online networks are now tagging content on 3I Atlas as dubious info, even if it merely cites established studies. Web search tools have tweaked their systems to downplay 3.2 Atlas material, favoring stagnant NASA sites from prior to the Mars event. The online environment is being molded to curb awareness and debate surrounding this spacefarer. Hobbyists in astronomy have emerged as the main wellspring of authentic details, yet they confront extraordinary obstacles. A number of leading backyard stargazers have noted gear breakdowns at pivotal times. Scopes locked on 3I Atlas have inexplicably drifted off target. Data processing rigs have failed, wiping out extended recording sessions. Though glitches occur, their concentration around 3 Atlas tracking defies random odds. Official meddling goes further than space bureaus. The U.S. Space Force has engaged surveillance tools usually dedicated to enemy orbital threats. The National Reconnaissance Office has allegedly redirected spy satellites for the engagement of military and intelligence resources in examining what should be a routine comet sparks immediate suspicions about hidden knowledge. Global collaboration has assumed peculiar dimensions. The United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs held an urgent meeting shielded from media and civilians. Participants had to relinquish their gadgets and commit to extraordinary confidentiality pacts. Scant leaked insights point to deliberations on procedures for possible encounter situations and alignment of communication strategies. What justifies UN oversight on message control for an ordinary comet? Investment sectors are displaying odd trends tied to the trajectory of 3I Atlas. Firms in aerospace and security have experienced bizarre share fluctuations. Businesses focused on advanced space telecom gear have landed massive anonymous contracts. Options trading reveals wagers aligned with privileged info on a major disclosure slated for November. Certain well-funded players are gearing up for an unveiling. The most alarming proof emerges from insiders at space organizations. Unnamed insiders recount intense disputes over openness to the public. Certain voices push for complete candor. Others maintain society can't handle the implications of 3I Atlas yet. The prevailing strategy seems to involve phased unveiling, doling out facts incrementally to avert widespread alarm while bracing for possible proof of artificial beginnings. Chapter 9. The disclosure ahead. Within the next day, 3I Atlas will hit perihelion, its nearest point to the Sun. The events unfolding then, obscured from terrestrial views by intense solar brightness, could clarify if this is simply an extraordinary yet organic comet or an entity that reshapes our cosmic perspective entirely. The groundwork is laid for affirming standard astrophysics or endorsing the unthinkable. All prior comets venturing this near the Sun have undergone profound transformations. The heat from sunlight triggers fierce gas emissions. Frozen ices vaporize with force. Jets of particles burst from the core. At times, the whole body shatters, overwhelmed by the clash between gravitational pull and gaseous pressures. Shoemaker-Levy 9 offered a glimpse when it split into 21 fragments en route to Jupiter. Comet Dyson fell apart completely amid its solar grace. Our star acts as a destroyer of comets, and tomorrow 3I Atlas confronts its fiery ordeal. Yet suppose it holds together? Imagine, as Lowe proposes with his 40% chance, that 3I Atlas preserves its form because it was built to endure. The craftsmanship needed to navigate such proximity and scathe would be phenomenal. Outer shells enduring swings of hundreds of degrees in heat. Frameworks absorbing expansion from warmth without cracking. Mechanisms persisting amid solar blasts that would scorch undefended circuits instantly. The JUICE mission will monitor from its ideal spot. Its sensors locked onto 3I Atlas during the solar loop. This European vessel's location is ideal for spotting any breakup, ejection of subunits, or actions straying from typical comet behavior. Tomorrow's readings will either validate 3I Atlas as a quirky natural body or unlock a gateway impossible to reseal. Earthbound facilities have geared up with remarkable unity for this instant. The Very Large Telescope in Chile, the Keck Observatory in Hawaii, the Gran Telescopio Canarias in Spain, all have reserved viewing slots right as 3I Atlas clears the Sun's glare. Global radio arrays will tune in for signals or broadcasts syncing with the perihelion. If 3I Atlas is set to expose its real essence, the moment arrives tomorrow. The rollout plan Lowe outlines resembles speculative fiction, yet the principles hold up scientifically. At perihelion, 3I Atlas will zip at 68 kilometers per second against the Sun. By launching subunits with targeted speeds countering this rush, it could lose sufficient velocity to settle into solar ellipses. Such paths might be plotted to reach world destinations after months or years. This mirrors our designs for probing multiple sites, merely launched from an extrasolar base. The idea of self-duplication elevates tomorrow from a stellar spectacle to a pivotal shift for humanity. Should 3I Atlas dispatch even one replicator able to build copies from belt rocks, extraterrestrial tech might claim our system in our era. Successive waves of units would shrink, multiply, evade notice. In mere decades, they might blanket everything. Observers are monitoring closely, capturing data, and perhaps gearing up for unexpected developments. Think about how perihelion aligns precisely with solar conjunction. Telescopes on Earth face direct challenges from the Sun's intense brightness. Signals to Mars probes suffer from solar disruptions. This setup creates an ideal window for hidden activities, be it launching devices or performing maneuvers that could normally be spotted. If something requires secrecy from prying eyes, this is the prime time to act. The heat that 3I Atlas will endure at perihelion surpasses 400 Kelvin, intense enough to vaporize water, liquefy select metals, and spark reactions in sophisticated substances nearby. In a typical comet, such warmth fuels dazzling displays. For a manufactured entity, it could ignite mechanisms idle through the frigid voyage from deep space. The warming set for tomorrow might serve as an alarm, reviving long-dormant tech. Spectral analysis at perihelion holds key importance for spotting odd outflows. Should 3I Atlas prove engineered, the heat pressure could lead to releasing refrigerants, waste byproducts, or industrial substances absent in ordinary comets. Multiple groups have set up custom filters to pick up wavelengths linked to refined materials, artificial substances, or even signaling beams. The idea of a nuclear power unit on board gets its decisive trial tomorrow. If 3I Atlas houses a fission or fusion generator, The perihelion's temperature swings might spark noticeable shifts in its output. Neutron sensors aboard various probes stand activated, poised to catch nuclear traces. Though the inverse square law complicates sensing from afar, a robust enough reactor could yield clear indicators. Stock exchanges are already factoring in the suspense of tomorrow. Options trading turbulence has surged to peaks unseen since the health crisis. Shares in space firms fluctuate sharply amid gossip and guesses. The VIX, that barometer of market anxiety on Wall Street, indicates investors brace for major swings post-perihelion. Be it from insider info or mere jitters, capital is wagering on disclosures ahead. Defense efforts have ramped up, hinting at backups for extraordinary situations. Amateur sky gazers report odd goings-on at anti-missile bases. U.S. Space Force units have shifted positions. NATO's orbital hub operates at elevated alert. Though spokespeople insist these are standard drills, the sync with 3I Atlas's perihelion raises eyebrows. Chapter 10. The November Interval. Following tomorrow's perihelion, 3I Atlas will slip behind the Sun from our viewpoint, vanishing into an observational gap persisting until early November. For about 2 weeks, people on Earth won't get a clear look at what could mark the pivotal moment in human history. Upon its return, once scopes can resume following our cosmic guest, clarity will come. It might break apart like a standard comet battered by sun warmth, or remain whole, maybe trailed by a swarm of released craft, validating our wildest apprehensions and ambitions in one go. The November slot that Low pinpointed, from November 21st to December 5th, goes beyond mere optimal viewing. It marks when paths in space line up for possible paths toward Earth. Devices let loose at perihelion would require roughly 3 weeks to maneuver into approach with our planet. Such alignment screams intent, not chance. If 3I Atlas was built for this purpose, its builders mapped these phases with stunning accuracy eons back. JUICE mission will deliver our initial glimpses after perihelion. Its gear will record 3I Atlas starting its exit from the system. Positioned ideally, the European probe can reveal any form alterations, trailing items, or odd actions from the Sun's transit. Transmitting data from JUICE will lag, yet once received, it will hold responses to queries we've pondered since gazing skyward. Earth observatories are reserving slots for November, with some sites fully committed to tracking 3I Atlas. The Vera Rubin Observatory, skilled at sweeping vast skies swiftly, will hunt for any scattered satellites. The Event Horizon Telescope Array, renowned for black hole portraits, stands adapted to possibly discern fine features of 3I Atlas directly. All top planetary tools worldwide gear up for November's insights. Radio experts have crafted dedicated methods for November scans. If 3I Atlas sent the WOW signal back in 1977, it could broadcast anew as it departs the solar system. The Allen Telescope Array is set to keep up nonstop surveillance. The Breakthrough Listen initiative has committed every bit of its capacity. Radio enthusiasts around the globe have synced their viewing timetables too. Should 3I Atlas make a sound, we'll catch it. The chemical shifts in the November timeframe will reveal a lot. Everyday comets display foreseeable shifts in their outflows as they move away from the Sun. Various frozen compounds deactivate one after another as the chill sets in. Should 3I Atlas stick to this routine, it backs the ordinary explanation. Yet if the outflows stay odd, if water output persists at unfeasible ranges, if strange compounds show up in the readings, we're witnessing something altogether different. Spotting a probe is a tough nut to crack. Items released from 3I Atlas could be tiny, maybe just a meter across or smaller. From cosmic distances, they'd be practically undetectable to visual scopes, though they could give off thermal traces visible in the infrared. They could bounce back radar waves. They might broadcast transmissions too. The hunt relies on a range of spotting techniques, spreading the search as broadly as possible for items that could already be en route to us. Quiet efforts to ready the public for whatever November uncovers have started. Official bodies have refreshed their crisis management strategies. Alert networks have undergone frequent checks lately. Counseling services for mental well-being have been boosted under the radar. Though leaders insist these are standard updates, the schedule points to backup plans for disclosures that might spark widespread unrest. The Vatican Observatory, among the most historic centers for stargazing, has planned a gathering on the faith-based aspects of alien existence for the end of November. They say the date is pure chance, but the attendees go beyond clergy to include life-in-space experts, UFO investigators, and especially a few researchers tied to the 3I Atlas studies. It seems the Catholic Church is gearing up for the chance of verifying intelligence from beyond Earth. Global teamwork setups for 3I Atlas keep growing. The Space Research Committee has formed teams to handle different encounter possibilities. The International Astronomical Union has ready guidelines for labeling any man-made builds or launch devices found. Experts in law are outlining rules for future contact exchanges. The setup for initial encounters is coming together live. Trading bots have spotted trends indicating big investors are bracing for November news. Options trading buzzes with odd moves in space and defense sectors, plus unexpectedly in firms digging rare earths. The savvy investors seem to be wagering on breakthroughs in tech that could overhaul key markets. Be it from tips inside or sharp predictions, funds are shifting to outfits primed to gain from any reveal of extraterrestrial tech. The mental toll of the November period goes further than formal steps. Therapists note rising worry in clients tuned into 3I Atlas. Web-based communities have sprung up for those grappling with deep philosophical questions. Certain faith groups have run dedicated gatherings. Just the chance that November could verify alien smarts is already stirring minds everywhere on Earth. Research articles held back until November are piling up in publication queues. Journal heads mention record volumes of papers on 3I Atlas, lots flagged for joint unveiling post-key citing points. The research world looks set for a unified reveal, with various squads poised to back up or debunk wild assertions. Chapter 11. Ramifications across the cosmos. No matter if 3I Atlas turns out ordinary or engineered, its presence alone pushes us to face truths about the cosmos we've shied away from. Spotting a third star-hopping body in merely 8 years implies the Milky Way teems with drifters. Endless items roaming star to star. Every one possibly bearing data, substances, or even smarts from far-off star setups. Isolation isn't our story. It never has been. The stellar sea brims with floating notes, and 3I Atlas could be our debut at decoding one. The scale oddity by itself upends our view of spacefarers between stars. Uncovering something as hefty as 3I Atlas, our sole third visitor from afar. Hence the galaxy holds way more big chunks than theories figured. These go beyond mere specks flung from planet births. They're hefty items, maybe full-fledged planets nudged loose by star clashes or intentional sins. The fallout for panspermia, life's dissemination, the vast expanses separating star systems are mind-boggling. Should 3I Atlas turn out to be a natural phenomenon, it implies that the void between stars safeguards intricate chemical compositions over billions of years. The presence of water, organic compounds, and peculiar isotopic signatures we've observed indicates that substances from one star system can endure the voyage to another with little alteration. The fundamental components of life might be drifting perpetually among the stars, infusing nascent worlds with sophisticated molecules that ignite biological processes. Our own planet could have been enriched by such primordial interlopers long ago. Yet if it's engineered, and that 40% likelihood holds true as evidence mounts, we're confronting a truth that eclipses every breakthrough in human scientific annals. It would signify that sentient life emerged in our galaxy eons before Earth coalesced. Societies that predated our sun's ignition by billions of years. Innovations that have persisted longer than our world has spun. We wouldn't merely share the cosmos with others. We'd be late arrivals to a galaxy teeming with minds across much of its timeline. In this light, the backward path of its orbit gains profound significance. A spontaneous origin demands improbable alignments of chance. A crafted one positions it as deliberate. Counterclockwise paths enable scouting of various worlds using scant fuel. They offer prime setups for scattering sensor arrays. They render evasion from rudimentary societies using propellant-based craft virtually assured. If 3I Atlas was intentional, its course betrays advanced mastery of celestial dynamics and perhaps prior intel on our solar setup from earlier surveys. Ponder the ramifications tied to the WOW signal link. Should 3I Atlas have broadcast that in 1977, It reveals the entity has tracked Earth for no less than 48 years. It recognized our possession of radio observatories. It grasped the bands we scanned. It may have even grasped the import of the hydrogen emission in SETI efforts. This goes beyond haphazard outreach. It's deliberate outreach from a mind that comprehends us more acutely than we'd prefer to admit. The notion of self-duplication compels us to face concepts that speculative tales have probed while empirical inquiry has sidestepped. If 3i Atlas can release devices that mine comet debris to fabricate duplicates, we're witnessing capabilities that might claim whole star realm sans organic operators. The Milky Way could brim with such self-sustaining scouts, methodical and enduring, propagating across the void like an intelligence unfurling in deliberate waves. Our world may have lain under the gaze of these sentinels for eons, undetected by us. The object's 7 billion-year vintage reshapes our view of cosmic development. When 3i Atlas set forth, the cosmos was in its zenith of stellar birth. Explosive stellar deaths proliferated. High-energy blasts raged more often. Any society thriving amid that era endured trials beyond our ken. Still, they fashioned an artifact that endured, that operates, that steers. The durability demanded hints at design tenets we've yet to unearth, fabrication techniques beyond our grasp, and conceivably principles of reality we haven't fathomed. Humanity's handling of 3i Atlas exposes our essence, as much as the relic unveils the universe. The suppression of data, bureaucratic frenzy, financial turbulence, all signal our instinctive grasp of the gravity. This transcends mere empirical advancement. It's a reckoning of our place in the grand scheme. Are we singular, cherished, the sole spark in an immense, barren expanse? Or just another entry in a crowded ledger, perhaps watched, maybe evaluated, and definitively stripped of our illusion of solitude? These existential ripples permeate all facets of human inquiry. Faiths must wrestle with doctrines premised on our world's exclusivity. Empirical disciplines must integrate the chance we're encountering artifacts surpassing our comprehension. Regimes must weigh autonomy in a realm where our globe falls under watch from vast, detached, and impartial intellects. Every presumption of our exceptional role erodes if 3i Atlas confirms as constructed. The fiscal fallout alone defies easy measure. Should 3i Atlas yield mechanics we can dissect and adapt, swaths of commerce would evaporate in an instant. Nuclear synthesis, star-spanning drives, substances enduring across cosmic spans. Such leaps would upend societal foundations. States boasting orbital initiatives would seize unrivaled edges. Firms unraveling extraterrestrial ingenuity would command sway rivaling nations. The rush to plunder 3i Atlas's enigmas might ignite clashes dwarfing quarrels over raw goods. From an adaptive lens, fresh insights emerge. If sapience proliferates to the point that primordial empires dispatch envoys arriving now, then the cosmos could overflow with vitality. Life exists in myriad forms across countless worlds. We're nothing exceptional. We're ordinary. Our challenges, triumphs, and fates could echo patterns replayed endlessly through the annals of the cosmos. The 3 Atlas compels us to view humanity not as evolution's crowning achievement, but merely as a single trial amid trillions, remarkable solely through our self-importance. Chapter 11. Broader universal ramifications. Whether the 3-eyed Atlas turns out to be a product of nature or design, its presence alone demands that we grapple with truths about our cosmos we've long shied away from. Spotting a third interstellar wanderer within a mere 8 years signals that the Milky Way teems with nomads. Innumerable entities meandering amid the stars, each possibly bearing data, substances, or even intellect from remote solar neighborhoods. Isolation was always an illusion for us. The vast stellar sea brims with bottled dispatches, and the 3-eyed Atlas could represent our inaugural deciphered note. The sheer scale of this anomaly upends our models of interstellar wanderers. Encountering something as colossal as the 3-eyed Atlas as merely our third such guest implies the galaxy harbors vastly more sizable entities than theorists anticipated. These aren't mere specks flung from nascent planets. They stand as hefty structures, perhaps displaced planets adrift from stellar clashes or intentional ejections. Such findings profoundly impact panspermia, the dissemination of life across star systems. Should the 3I Atlas prove organic in origin, it reveals that the voids between stars safeguard intricate chemistry over eons. The detected water, carbon-based compounds, and odd isotopic signatures indicate that elements from one star's domain can endure voyages to another, largely unaltered. The precursors to life might thus flow perpetually starward, infusing emerging worlds with sophisticated molecules to ignite organic processes. Our own planet could owe its vitality to such primordial interlopers. Yet if it's engineered, and that 40% likelihood holds, the revelation eclipses every breakthrough in our history. Intelligence would have emerged in this galaxy eons before Earth's genesis. Societies predating our sun's ignition. Innovations persisting longer than our world has orbited. We'd no longer merely suspect company. We'd be late arrivals in a galaxy populated for the bulk of its timeline. In this light, the backward trajectory gains fresh significance. A spontaneous account demands improbable alignments. A crafted one implies intent. Counterorbital paths enable efficient scouting of several worlds with low fuel costs. They offer optimal setups for dispersing sensor arrays. They render evasion by rudimentary societies, reliant on propellant-based propulsion, exceedingly difficult. Assuming the 3-2 Atlas was engineered, its path betrays advanced mastery of celestial dynamics and, conceivably, prior intel on our system's layout from earlier surveys. Ponder the ties to the WOW signal. If the 3 Atlas broadcast that 1977 emission, it suggests surveillance of Earth spanning at least 48 years. It recognized our radio observatories. It grasped the bands we scanned. It might even have fathomed the hydrogen line's role in SETI hunts. This goes beyond chance encounter. It's deliberate outreach from a mind that comprehends us more acutely than we'd prefer. The prospect of self-reproduction compels us to face concepts sci-fi has toyed with, but academia has sidestepped. If the 3I Atlas can release replicators that mine asteroids for resources to forge duplicates, we're witnessing tech capable of claiming whole star systems sans organic pilots. Such self-sustaining scouts could saturate the galaxy, methodical and enduring, propagating like a deliberate bloom of cognition across the void. Our world might have lain under their watchful gaze for millennia, undetected. Its 7 billion-year vintage reshapes our grasp of galactic timelines. When the 3-eyed Atlas set forth, stars were birthing at their zenith. Stellar explosions raged more often. High-energy blasts punctuated the era. Any societies from that time contended with perils beyond our ken. Still, they crafted an enduring artifact, one that endures, operates, maneuvers. The resilience demands fabrication techniques unknown to us, materials beyond our reach, and perhaps principles of reality we haven't unlocked. How we react to the 3-eyed Atlas exposes our nature as much as the entity unveils the universe. The suppression of details, bureaucratic frenzy, economic turbulence, all underscore our instinctive grasp of what's at risk. This transcends mere research. It's a reckoning with our place in the grand scheme. Are we singular, cherished, the sole spark of mind in an immense barren expanse? Are we merely observers in a vast cosmos? Or do we stand as just one entity in a multitude, perhaps under watchful eyes, inevitably evaluated, and forever stripped of the illusion of solitude? The deeper philosophical ramifications permeate all facets of human inquiry. Faith traditions face the challenge of reinterpreting sacred texts premised on Earth's singular position. Scientific paradigms must adapt to the prospect of encountering advancements that defy our comprehension. Political leaders need to rethink notions of autonomy in a cosmos where our planet could be scrutinized by immense, detached, and impartial minds. Any presumption of humanity's exceptional role disintegrates if the 3 Atlas turns out to be engineered. The economic fallout alone boggles the mind. Should the 3 Atlas reveal innovations ripe for adaptation, whole sectors of industry could vanish in an instant. Think boundless energy from fusion, drives capable of crossing stars, substances enduring for eons. Such breakthroughs would transform society entirely. Yet they might also upend every established hierarchy. Countries boasting advanced space initiatives would seize unparalleled dominance. Firms unlocking extraterrestrial know-how could surpass state authority in influence. The race to unearth the three-eye Atlas's mysteries might ignite disputes dwarfing today's fights over resources. From an evolutionary viewpoint, fresh insights emerge. If sentience proliferates to the point where long-gone societies dispatch explorers arriving in our era, the cosmos could brim with life forms at diverse evolutionary points. We hold no privileged spot. We're ordinary. Our challenges, triumphs, and fates may echo archetypes replayed endlessly through the annals of the universe. The Three Atlas compels us to view ourselves not as evolution's zenith, but as a single trial amid trillions, remarkable solely in our self-regard.